Welcome to the Manhwa Mentor channel. Today, we will plunge into a world where the line between friendship and betrayal becomes blurred. Our hero is a soldier who finds himself in the center of incredible intrigue and danger. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel and like it so you don't miss a single turn of this fascinating story. Events take place at the Huaxia guard station in the northwest. A covert operation begins, in which numerous military personnel penetrate the border and take the lives of the soldiers defending it. One of the servicemen claims that the path has been cleared and there are no more suspicious signs. A group of soldiers begin to enter the building to conduct a follow-up investigation. A mysterious man addresses the military personnel who burst into the premises and asks how things are going. The commander tells him that everything is fine and there is no longer a threat. At first, the mysterious man breathes a sigh of relief, realizing that there is no longer any danger. He then informs Mr. Bai that the situation has been resolved. An elderly man resembling a philanthropist, having heard that it was previously said that their country was a no-go zone for mercenaries, learns that an army of wild wolves easily crossed the border. Despite this, the wild wolf army easily reached the border, despite claims that the country was off-limits to mercenaries. Indeed, no one realized the true power of the wild wolves, one of the top 5 mercenary armies in the world, and now, after successfully completing the mission, they could finally rest. A warrior from a squad of wild wolves approached to report to the captain on the results of the mission. It turned out that 7 enemies were destroyed, as well as 1 sentry and rescue soldier, and even 9 destroyed opponents. With alarm, the man looked at the soldier and realized that, according to intelligence, there should have been 10 opponents at the post. The lightning captain shouted that the mission was being canceled and ordered to quickly leave the battlefield. To quickly escape from the scene, the captain instructed Mr. Bai to change his clothes. The elderly man began to change his clothes, not understanding why the captain was so excited, because it was only about 1 person. Fearing a negative outcome of the mission, the captain ordered a soldier nicknamed Viper to identify and apprehend the fugitive. As it turned out, Viper was a sniper and was on the southwestern border. The sniper was instructed to eliminate the target and immediately retreat to escape the operation. Luckily, the target was very close and within reach. Suddenly, the guy who was supposed to be the target disappeared behind the cart and was out of sight. With surprise, the sniper realized that his target had stopped moving. The radio received information that the spider had detected a radio wave, and there is a suspicion that it is the Huaxi Special Forces, which are already approaching within 10 kilometers. And thus, the target is lucky and the sniper must retreat. Meanwhile, the hidden soldier found himself behind the cart, tying his shoelaces, which ultimately saved his life. Due to the heavy rain, the soldier was worried that his supplies might get wet, and this could cause problems. And because of this, he asked the horse to speed up in order to return to base as quickly as possible. The mysterious guy eventually returned to the base where he was supposed to deliver supplies. He had no peace in his soul, and he felt something was wrong, and his premonition told him that he and his comrades were in danger. The tower where the watchmen were supposed to be was empty, which caused great concern. Sensing danger, the guy took a knife to protect himself and his comrades. Immediately, he began to look around to get an idea of the situation. Unfortunately, he saw his comrades lying on the ground, lifeless. Then he was struck by memories of how they played basketball together, considering each other brothers serving and defending their state. Realizing that he would no longer be able to talk to his friends, the soldier realized that he was too late and could not help. And the tears flowed down his cheeks, mixing with the rain. The desperate soldier begged his brothers and the captain to watch him from above, because he wanted to find those who committed this act. And with the very blade that was previously their symbol. In a fit of anger, the guy promised to make the perpetrators pay with his life. Leaving the military base, a cold and dim forest stretched out in front of him. Walking through the moisture-soaked area, the hero observed traces of opponents who had committed terrible deeds. From the broken branches and dirty footprints, the guy realized that the opponents didn't even try to cover them up any other dragons. He should have been more careful in the future. Suddenly, there was a strong explosion, and smoke from it rose above the trees. Upon discovering that the shooting had begun, the soldier believed that they were being attacked by their own country's special forces and were very close. Peeking out from behind a tree, the alarmed serviceman saw the silhouette of a man opposite. What he saw struck him, and after this, shots were heard. The unknown person started shooting at the tree and the guy himself, who miraculously avoided a large number of bullets. Based on the silhouette, the Special Forces soldier realized that there was a girl in front of him, and he wanted to figure out why she was attacking these guys. Feeling very anxious about the situation, the guy still tried to look out from behind the tree to find out where the girl was hiding. Behind him, someone pressed a gun to his head, and the guy, feeling this, did not understand at all what to do. In a state of great stress, the seasoned soldier reflected that the girl did not immediately shoot at him, which could be a good sign. Turning around, the guy raised his hand to stop her from shooting, declaring that he was on her side and an ally. The mysterious girl, holding a pistol pointed at the soldier, asked him for his rank, name, and position. Still holding the soldier in her sights, she ordered him to turn slowly. The stunned hero gradually turned around and begged the girl not to shoot. Reacting instantly, the soldier knocked the girl to the ground because he saw the danger of a bullet flying towards her. This bullet almost hit the mysterious lady, and she looked in surprise at the commando lying on top of her. After a few seconds of awkward silence, they continued to stare at each other as they lay on the ground. The embarrassed professional soldier apologized, feeling clumsy. Not realizing why he did this, the girl began to shoot from her pistol directly at the hero, throwing him several meters forward. Fortunately, all the shots missed and did not reach the soldier himself. Several accurate shots hit right into the bushes, from where the shot intended for the girl was fired. The lady ordered the hero to bend down because someone was sitting in the bushes, and he had to hide quickly in order to hit the target. The shooting did not stop, and the accuracy of these shots was amazing. Each shot almost missed its target by a centimeter. Reacting wittily, the hero realized that there was a sniper behind the trees, while the mysterious lady was armed only with a pistol and needed support. At that moment, he noticed a machine gun lying not far from the soldier who had died earlier. Showing dexterity, the soldier decided to throw his briefcase to attract the sniper's attention, and then threw a machine gun with a telescopic sight to the girl. Having intercepted the treasured weapon, the girl instantly disappeared, preparing to deliver accurate shots at the target. Seeing the enemy, she began to shoot, aiming exactly at the villain who was making an attempt on their lives. Unfortunately, several well-aimed shots reached the girl and she was wounded in the leg. At the same time, the sniper, who had previously been sitting behind the bushes, was also wounded, more seriously, and began to fall to the floor in a powerless state. Saving the girl, the hero rushed to her to help. She covered his mouth, signaling him to remain silent. A few minutes later, in order to prevent the wound from becoming infected, the mysterious girl asked for a first aid kit. Having received the necessary supplies, she began treating the wound and carried out disinfection procedures. In great pain and despair, she deftly did everything she could to heal her new gunshot wound. The stress made it difficult for her to concentrate, and she knew that the first thing she needed to do was get the bandage done and then leave the area immediately. After all, if they linger here, other opponents will soon find them. Suddenly, someone started screaming and asking the girl if she was wounded, and the hero immediately realized that he needed to act and tried to find a gun. Handing the pistol to the soldier, the lady asked if he was afraid to die. The guy was really afraid of this because the opponents decided the lives of all his comrades, and in the end, he is still a man and is obliged to take revenge. Looking him in the eye, the determined lady announced that the trees could create a blind spot, and he should go and hide around the nearest corner. Thanks to these trees, he may be able to survive, but everything depends only on him. In the end, the hero wanted to know the girl's name so that he could have it in mind before going on a dangerous mission. The soldier, experiencing severe pain, met his gaze and replied that if he wanted to know her name, then first he needed to survive. Under the influence of such a motivating stimulus, the hero immediately ran towards the shelter, under the rain of shots. Despite many shots, none of them reached the target, and the determined soldier was not going to stop. Abusing force, the soldier who shot him grumbled to the girl that they needed this guy and should throw down their weapons to get to know each other better. Literally, a moment later, the offender began to attack the hero, who in turn began to shoot. Using a bold move, he dodged and fired back with his pistol. With several accurate shots, the impudent enemy fell to the ground, remaining lifeless. After checking the scoundrel's body, the hero discovered that he had the vice captain's dagger. Looking at the corpse, the guy realized that this killer got off easy. Several more silhouettes of soldiers suddenly appeared in the forest, slowly approaching. The lady immediately warned that enemy reinforcements had arrived and they needed to retreat. For effective defense, they took enemy machine guns. It turned out that the hero had previously only shot from an old shotgun and did not know how to use this weapon. An ordinary pistol was enough for him. Fortunately, the girl had an M16A4 assault rifle with a range of 600 meters, a 30-round magazine, and an optical sight with 3 firing modes: single, burst, and automatic. Despite the lack of experience, the girl decided to give him the machine gun and ordered him to shoot when he took off the safety. The new weapon made the hero happy, and he introduced himself. His name was Luo Zheng, and he wanted to know the girl's name because she didn't name him, and together they escaped death. Suddenly, the girl felt strange sensations, and her face was covered with perspiration. As if out of thin air, she fell to the ground, and Luo Zheng immediately started asking questions and about appearing unconscious. After some time, they sat together by the fire, lit for warmth. A caring young man decided to change the bandage on the girl soldier's wound to prevent possible infection. In addition, he discovered some leaves in the forest and began to chew them. Since the leaves contained life, he carefully placed them in the girl's mouth, releasing green juice. Having done this, he felt that these herbs should bring a tangible improvement to the mysterious condition of the soldier. During this entire period, unfortunately, she was in an unconscious state and could not even explain what was really happening to her. After some time, the lady began to slowly open her eyes and come to her senses. Opening her eyes slightly, she noticed the guy who saved her. At first, she could not recognize him and immediately reached for her machine gun, thinking that it could be an enemy. Noticing that the girl had finally come to her senses, he assured her that there was no danger since the opponents had already left. Otherwise, they would have been caught long ago. With some trepidation, the girl asked if he really saved her. After some time, Luo Jing explained that he really saved her, and because of the herbs, she needed to rest a little. A caring soldier stood guard all this time to ensure her peace after the stress and serious injury she experienced. With his eyes closed, the guy's memories began to emerge. At this time, images of him and his comrades passing through the forest surfaced in his memory, and one of them noted his endurance, and it turned out that some kind of family fighting skills had been passed down in his family, although it turned out that all of his relatives were hunters. Although he had no family martial arts, he knew a few breathing secrets to help restore strength during the hunt. Suddenly, his memories began to be disrupted. Opening my eyes, Luo Zheng promised himself that he would definitely take revenge for all his brothers. Meanwhile, the girl carefully watched the hero and thought that he had probably fallen asleep. Turning his gaze, the experienced hunter explained that he was used to resting like this, and it seemed that the herbs he had given earlier had begun to take effect. Luo Zheng decided to ask the girl if she knew how they could contact their country and reminded her of the importance of taking weapons and eating herbs. And in the meantime, he was going to go in pursuit of those who attacked them. It turned out that they were abroad, and he had no means of communication or geolocation. The offer of other means of communication and geolocation dumbfounded him. At this time, the lady asked to tell her your name and status, because at least she could help send the message. The hero just looked at her and said that she should know military discipline because she is also a soldier and she needs to take care of herself. And he expressed hope that they would meet again. Immediately after that, he started to leave, but the mysterious girl stopped him. She believed that the hero was an experienced soldier of Huaxia and warned that if he went alone, he would be doomed to die. Turning around, the guy asked in surprise what she meant. Right in Luo's eyes, she explained to Zheng that her mission needed to be completed, but due to her injury, she was unable to do it alone. The hero guessed that she was inviting them to work together. Because he has excellent fighting and shooting skills, and the lady can impart knowledge of tactics to him, which will help him in his revenge. Greatly surprised, he immediately realized that they really had a common enemy, and he was alone. Luo Initiative Jenga made the girl very happy, since she knew how they needed to confront the crowd of enemies. Looking forward to working together, the guy waited all this time. After shaking hands, the girl introduced herself, and her name was Yarenlan Xiong. Luo Zheng was sincerely glad that they finally got to know each other better. Noticing that the girl was still very weak, the hero offered to bring them food, and it would be better for her to stay and rest. Sometime later, a caring guy brought food and began to fry it over the fire. Meanwhile, the girl soldier recalled the events that happened earlier. She remembered the moment when Luo Zheng handed her the chewed poisonous berries. Realizing this, she felt awkward and blushed. Then she announced that they needed to return to where they had encountered the enemy yesterday, and she was going to give him his first lesson in jungle survival, including following tracks. The guy needed to remember the location of the stones and forks through which they passed yesterday, and they could use this as a guide to return. The girl reassured him by saying that it was very dark at that moment, and he was right not to pay attention, since he was trying to save their lives. Hearing this, the girl realized that it was not so scary if he did not remember the way, and they could follow the tracks of the animals. Also, animals sometimes follow their own tracks, and then the lady decided to find out if the hero knows how to track wild animals. Since he was from a family of hunters, he knew well how to do this, and the girl realized that he did not need to explain. Realizing that they had a long way to go, the hero invited the girl to take a piece of fried rabbit and refresh herself. At first, she couldn't believe that she would be the first to eat and asked him if he was hungry, and he only replied that patience should be priority. Watching her savior, the girl thought that he seemed to be a rather brave guy, although a little reckless. Sometime later, when it became light enough outside, they set off. Armed and taking all the necessary equipment, they made their way through the forest mass of willows. Suddenly, with great surprise, the soldier discovered some berries, which he decided to try. With pleasure, he began to collect and eat the berries hanging on the branches, inviting the girl to try it too. Unfortunately, after eating the berries, they got a severe stomach ache, as it turned out that these berries should not be eaten. They continued on their way, passing through a mysterious forest and facing numerous challenges from the wild. The soldier carried the girl on his shoulders, as her leg was wounded and it was difficult for her to move on her own. Events unfolded, and the next morning they finally found some clues. It was going to rain soon, and they had to hurry to catch up with their opponents. Luo Zheng explained that the lady should not move so quickly and get caught in the rain, since they still have time and there is no point in rushing. Then the girl listened to him and decided that it was better to spend time in their camp to save energy. The guy said that he has been hunting since childhood, and thanks to the guidance, his survival skills are developing well. He also had no problem with military sign language, so now Yurin Lanxiang was going to teach him how to use a sniper rifle. Hearing this, the hero felt incredible joy, because he had always dreamed of shooting from such a powerful rifle, which looks much more impressive than his usual pistols. The lady explained that the first thing he needed to do was learn how to counterattack, otherwise he wouldn't even be able to defend himself. From the sad look of the girl, the hero guessed that the sniper rifle belonged to her friend. With sadness and regret in her eyes, Yarin Lanxiang admitted that this was indeed the case. Overcoming negative emotions, the heroine threw the sniper rifle so that the soldier could examine it, and her pants were also wet, and if she did not change, she would infect her wound. Then the girl decided to start changing clothes right now, ordering the hero not to look at her. Soon, she undressed and sat down near the fire to dry and bandage the wound. Despite everything, Luo Zheng turned and began to watch the girl. Confused, Lady asked him if he liked what he saw. The young man, amazed, instantly jumped up and admitted that he liked it, but then began to deny his words, realizing that he should not have looked at her. With a smile, Yurina Langxiong said that if they both returned alive, then she would make her final decision. Night fell, and the sky said goodbye to the endless forest with its beauty. Following the enemy's tracks, the heroes thought that they would soon catch up with the villains. But they still need to speed up because the moon is shining on the road and they have to walk all night. Despite being tired, Luo Zheng was determined to move forward, wanting to avenge his brothers. He also reflected on the fact that he could not lose to a girl who had just recovered from a serious injury. Thanks to breathing techniques, he was able to resist fatigue and overcome all difficulties. In amazement, Yurina Lanxiong watched the guy who was trying his best to catch up with her, despite the difficulties. At that moment, she thought that perhaps he was not who he said he was, although he had not undergone special combat training. Suddenly, the lady noticed something surprising. Smoke came into her field of vision, probably from a fire nearby, and it seemed to them that the enemy was close. Together, they began to hide behind the trees, observing the camp, which was in the hands of the villains. The concerned guy wanted to ask the girl what to do. She explained that despite Luo's thirst for revenge, Jenga, his life should always be prioritized over the death of his enemies. Since they are camped here, they should lower their guard. Therefore, it is necessary to conduct reconnaissance first. Gradually approaching the enemy camp, they tried to remain unnoticed. Using an optical sight, they managed to notice soldiers talking with their leader. At the moment of aiming, the girl asked the hero if he saw the Asian man who was next to the enemy soldiers. Turning out to be a traitor, he possessed strategic secrets at the national level, and therefore, he was destined to die. The girl's plan included surrounding enemies on both sides and returning to their original position after eliminating the main target. The main thing in this mission is to survive, the girl emphasized. Looking at her, the heroes agreed and confirmed that this applied to them too. Slowly and decisively, they approached the villains sitting in their camp. Using a Luo optical sight, Zheng kept an eye on the enemies located near the camp. At the moment of aiming, he thought that the bullet would travel along a parabola and must travel a certain distance to the target. While aiming at the enemy's body, a shot suddenly rang out in his head, and he began to fall dead to the ground. The stunned hero, watching what was happening, did not understand what happened and who fired the shot. Someone's targeted shots hit several opponents at once. Then the guy realized that it was Yurina Lanxiong, capable of destroying opponents in a matter of seconds. Meanwhile, the girl sat, waiting for the next opponents who might be nearby. Sensing great danger, Luo Zheng slowly approached the opponents, who were willing to sacrifice themselves in order to check their bodies. Stretching across the floor, the hero discovered a grenade lying under one of the soldiers. As a friend, someone behind me said that he left a gift under his partner's body. It turned out to be a sniper hiding in the bushes, and the guy felt that something was wrong with the body, and the enemies were probably nearby. Experiencing great fear, the guy understood that his opponents were very cunning and were ready to do anything to win. The sniper tried to track down his targets in order to destroy them with the help of a sniper rifle, grabbing it in his hands. The hero's hands were shaking, and he felt that the sniper would now notice him. At the same time, he remembered the words of Yarina Lanxiang, who advised using a sniper rifle as a shotgun at close range. Without thinking, the main character aimed his sniper rifle at the enemy, scaring him. The reaction was immediate, and the enemy also drew his rifle, preparing to respond to the soldier's shot. With a powerful blow, the guy knocked the rifle out of the enemy's hands, making him scream in pain because his hand was damaged. Removing his knife from its sheath, the hero fell on the villain and easily neutralized him. The body of the enemy lay on the ground, and the hero was proud of his action, taking revenge on the first warrior who killed his brothers. Looking at the body, he realized that he could use all available resources. Luo Zheng grabbed the enemy soldier's equipment and disguise, wearing it to disguise himself while sitting in a tree. Sitting on a tree, he also noticed that his partner had attracted the attention of enemies. Perhaps now they will be able to find the enemy's camp and take serious action. Using an optical sight, the hero nevertheless discovered the enemy base, where there were many enemy soldiers. Taking aim at the main criminal, Luo Zheng understood that he had only one chance left, and mistakes would not be forgiven. There is no more time to waste, otherwise Yarina Lanxiang will be in danger. At this moment, the main character decides to make a shot to destroy the main enemy located at the enemy base. Shots rang out, indicating that there were still many rivals left in the forest. The lady immediately realized that something was wrong, and Luo Zheng exchanges fire with the enemy. She noticed that the soldiers were heading somewhere, preoccupied. It turned out that they were standing over the body of their boss, who was lying lifeless on the ground. Suddenly, one of the soldiers turned around, sensing that someone was behind him. It was a girl hiding behind a tree, trying to remain unnoticed at all costs. At first, she thought that this guy didn't know how lucky he was, but then she heard a few more shots and realized that Luo Zheng must survive. Under the influence of a strong shock, the guy did not hesitate and rushed forward, realizing that he had fulfilled his duty to the country. Now the time has come for revenge on the enemies who committed inhumane acts against his brothers. Shots sounded, bullets whistled right next to the guy, and he deftly dodged them. Hidden behind a tree trunk, he wondered when this hunt would stop. The enemies behaved like crazy animals. A group of 3 soldiers were heading towards him, determined to destroy him. Enemies contemptuously dubbed Luo Zheng was a puppy and ordered to leave, claiming that he had nowhere else to run. Then he remembered the grenade in his pocket, took it out, and began counting down. Leaving his weapon behind, he diverted the attention of the enemy soldiers. The soldiers shot at the abandoned machine gun, mistaking it for the enemy. The bullets only reached the machine gun, and the hero remained unharmed. Taking advantage of the moment, Luo Zheng threw a grenade, which exploded under the enemy's feet, engulfing part of the forest. After waiting a few seconds, the guy returned to his weapon to take it and continue the battle with the remaining scoundrels. Suddenly, one of the soldiers approached him and began to aim his rifle, about to fire a shot. The hero was stunned. He did not expect that there could be more enemies nearby. Fortunately, someone shot at the villain, hitting him right in the head, and he began to fall to the ground. At this moment, the hero sighed with relief, but remained on guard in case the enemies were still nearby. Meanwhile, Yarina Lanxiang came out of the ambush where she had been hiding all this time and said that it seemed she had saved the guy again. Smiling, but taking into account the possible danger from enemies, the hero expressed gratitude for the rescue. He was also reassured that she was okay and asked if the enemies were retreating. It turns out that the man they were guarding was killed and they lost most of their forces, so they retreat. It is no longer possible to catch up with them. After listening carefully, Luo Zheng realized that the enemies escaped punishment too easily and decided to ask the girl what to do next. Without wasting time, the girl suggested returning home. Days later, events continued to develop on the northeastern border of Huaxia. The heroes found themselves at the border, and Luo Zheng tried to convince the soldiers that he was indeed on the side of those whose guns were pointed at them. Fortunately, the captain received information from headquarters confirming the presence of Luo Zhenga on the watchtower, where they were looking for him as missing. Yurina Lan Xiong had a secret mission, and the soldiers lacked the authority to find out the details, so she requested permission to contact her superiors. Without hesitation, the captain ordered the soldier to provide her with a walkie-talkie to communicate with her superiors. Taking the walkie-talkie in her hands, the girl said that she had returned and was to be picked up from the Huaxia border. Special agents will arrive later and deal with each of them separately, so Lady suggested Luo Zhenga wait here. Meanwhile, the soldiers were discussing who this girl really was because she was talking about a secret mission. Looking at the girl, the hero felt only satisfaction from this turn of events and the fact that all the difficulties seemed to be left behind. She subsequently detailed that she would soon be taken away and that he should continue to hone the basic shooting skills she had taught him. After all, he really had great potential, and there was no point in wasting his talent. A few minutes later, a helicopter arrived and hovered directly above the heroes. Armed soldiers came out of it and arrived to take the girl away. What he saw amazed the guy, because he did not expect that so many soldiers would be sent to pick up the girl. Yurina Lan Xiong decided to hug the guy at the last moment because he saved her. The girl also reminded him not to forget about his promises, in particular the one that should come true in 2 years. Turning to the hero, she also expressed the hope that they would meet again. The guy followed her with his eyes while her helicopter carried her away along with the girl herself. Therefore, the guy promised himself to meet the girl in the future at any cost because he gave his word to her about this. The events took place just 2 days ago, and Luo Zheng has already begun to remember all the details. The brave guy was amazed that Yurina Lan Xiong agreed to thank him, and it occurred to him whether he should do this. In response, the girl told him that he had helped her complete the mission, and this should be his reward. She wasn't scared, and the guy didn't have to worry. What he heard confused him even more, but he understood that it was time to act. At that moment, the girl became indignant and asked him why he was hesitating because he needed to undress, as if this also required her instructions. Embarrassed and flushed, the hero began to take off his clothes and camouflage. The lady was shocked that the hero was a novice, and it seemed like he had never undergone systematic training before, and she always believed that his potential and quick learning ability would allow him to rise much higher than being a mere sentry, and she did not understand why he was sent there. What he heard made him blush even more, as he thought that she thought he was better than he really was. While keeping a close eye on him, she told him that if he had something he didn't want to talk about, then he needed to do it. And she later thought that all she was doing was helping the troops by training new recruits. And she added that she was saying this just once, and it was not considered some kind of individual lesson in combat training, and she believed that the organization would understand. A little dumbfounded, the hero thought that the girl was so prudent that she even came up with an excuse for the organization. Then she began to talk about how snipers are considered the core of special forces, and they are the ones who can influence the outcome of the battle, and he, in her words, had the potential to become a top-class sniper. Sniper techniques are classified by their reliance on sight or sensation, and the former requires eye contact with the target. The latter is based on feelings and intuition. At that moment, she concluded that he had previously shot the enemy intuitively. Although she didn't know how he mastered it, since he already had some basic skills, there was no need to worry about visual shooting and just need to continue to develop sensory skills. After thinking a little, he realized that his family had been hunting for centuries, so some training methods were passed down to him, and for example, relying not on sight, but on feeling to predict the location of prey, distance to it, and the like. And this coincided with the fact that what the girl was talking about. This was true, and the lady asked him to promise that he would not use his talent in vain and would surpass her in 2 years. Hearing this, Luo Zheng was amazed and could not understand how he would succeed, and the girl was so strong that he thought that he would never be able to surpass her. To this, the girl just shouted that she didn't want to hear excuses. After some thought, the hero nevertheless made a promise and asked the girl not to be angry with him. The girl only replied that she did not need an apology, and it was important for her that he keep his promise, and she would not be able to forgive him if he did not fulfill it. They folded their hands and made a bet, and Luo Zheng promised Yurina Lanxiong to develop his talent to become stronger than her in 2 years. At this moment, the embarrassed guy asked for 2 more years and asked to wait for him. Then they brought their heads closer to each other, closing their eyes as if preparing to kiss. Suddenly, the main characters woke up abruptly, finding themselves in a field camp, and everything turned out to be just a dream. He is sleeping in a military camp and is called by the captain. It turned out that the man who called him wanted to take him to the regiment commander and ordered him to get dressed. After some time, events are transferred to the regiment's training field. Many soldiers are training, learning to shoot, marching, and forming a line. After observing the greatness of the regiment in front of him, Luo Zheng was impressed. Seeing him, the girls couldn't help but laugh as they watched the recruit as he walked past them. This confused him even more, and he looked with alarm at the girls who were mocking him. A friend walking next to him noticed that the guy didn't look very good, as if he hadn't slept well. Then he admitted that he slept well, but woke up a little at the wrong time. The captain took him to the colonel's office and asked if he had brought the report he needed to write. Fortunately, the hero answered positively, and they headed to the colonel's office. Entering the office, the hero introduced himself as the guard of the strange road, Private Luo Zheng, and presented a report on the completed mission. The captain was pleased that his soldier looked skilled. He said that he had previously been informed about what had happened at the post, and he read the message that the soldier had left earlier, and the experienced man concluded that the soldier had coped with the task. The captain closely watched his subordinate and said that soldiers like him are the pride of the army. As a sign of respect and recognition, he presented him with the honor. This was a great achievement for the guy because he was praised by the captain for his services to his homeland. The report also contained an account of everything that had happened previously. The commander knew what had happened in the last few days, and it must remain strictly classified. And although he could not read the report now, he would do so later. Suddenly, someone knocked on the door, and the commander allowed him to enter. A mysterious man entered, also dressed in military uniform. The commander was sincerely glad to see him and said that now the guy could present his report. Turning to the mysterious soldier, the hero noticed that he had 2 stripes and 3 stars, which meant that he was a colonel. The new colonel immediately turned to Luo Zheng, trying to learn as much as possible about the events that happened earlier. Sometime later, events developed in the office of the regiment commander. Luo Zheng sat with the regimental commander in his office, discussing various issues. He thought with interest that even the commander was not allowed to listen to their conversation. Everything was so secret. At that time, the colonel carefully watched the guy and was pleased that he presented a complete picture of what happened, but he only had one question. What feelings did the hero experience when he held the enemy in his sights? As it turned out, nothing special, and his only thought was how to effectively fight. This answer made the man smile, and he urged the soldier to relax, saying that this was a normal conversation and there was no need to adhere to formalities. And then he again asked whether the soldier was sure when he fired. The hero answered uncertainly that he was only half ready. The man smiled again and asked not to use formalities in every sentence, and being half confident was not bad for a young soldier in such a difficult situation. He then remembered what Yerina Lan Xiong had said about the young soldier's potential to become an outstanding sniper. The general laughed, saying that he was just making guesses while fighting his enemies. This answer made the experienced colonel laugh even more, and he laughed loudly. Immediately after this, he looked into the young man's eyes and asked if he was afraid. The guy began to make excuses, saying that he wouldn't laugh because he was just an ordinary private, and to ignore his rank and leave because of personal revenge was already a violation of the military code. He added that he may have done something good, but it just makes up for his crime because he feels guilty. At this time, the general listened carefully and drew conclusions from each phrase of the soldier. The brave warrior thought that he was invited here to stand in front of the commander himself, and even if he, as the commander-in-chief, spoke to him face to face, it would be a great honor. Then, alarmed, he wanted to know what the army really wanted from him. Hearing this question, the commander asked how well he had analyzed the situation and asked if he would believe that the colonel wanted a private conversation with him. After thinking about the answer, he realized that the colonel himself had come and started looking for him, and even the commander had come out at his request, and so it really was a personal conversation. With a smile on his face, he realized once again that he might not be that important, although his attraction to the chief of staff's attention was noticeable. The man again asked to carefully assess the situation. Realizing that the guy had an excellent analytical mind, he asked why he came here. A little confused and anxious, the guy tried to find an answer to this question, but at least for the moment, he was unable to do so. The experienced soldier knew that the guy had his own thoughts, but he chose not to reveal them, and thus their little conversation ended, and it was time to get down to business. With surprise, Luo Zheng watched the colonel and wondered what the matter was. Then the man, the guard of the Northwestern Old Road, Private Luo, turned to him with an exclamation, "Zheng." When the colonel called, the private immediately stood up from his seat to answer. It turns out that his case was reviewed by the party committee and the organization, and it was decided that Luo Zheng, who has received the approval of the Minister General, deserves a reward for outstanding personal qualities in the form of a Medal of Honor. Hearing this, the hero was amazed, and he was shocked by such an unexpected turn of events. Feeling great joy, he reached out to take the new reward into his hands. His hands were shaking, his heart was beating even faster with every second, because his excitement knew no bounds. He looked at the award lying in front of him, and for him, this was the best event in his military career. The stunned guy wanted to clarify whether this medal was intended for him, because he expected that he would be expelled from the army. With a smile, the colonel asked him who told him that he was expelled because he received a medal, and receiving this medal is an honor for Huaxia soldiers. The man added that, unfortunately, he needs to understand that this must remain a secret, since the reward and mission are considered top secret. Due to the need to maintain confidentiality, the hero will not have an official award ceremony, and the main thing is that the administration instructed the colonel to present him with this medal. Tearing with happiness, the soldier exclaimed that he was truly grateful to the colonel and promised to continue serving his motherland. Still, he must remember that the medal can be shown to others, but his merits must remain a secret. Staff also promoted him to staff sergeant and gave him 2 options to choose from. The first option is to become a group leader at the old clock station, and the second is to go to a military camp for 3 months of training, after which they will decide where to send him. Without hesitation, the hero immediately declared that he wanted to study. The colonel had doubts, as he had skipped the ranks of lance corporal, corporal, and sergeant, and by being promoted to staff sergeant, he would already be an echelon officer. And if he became a leader at the sentry post, he would immediately be promoted to platoon leader. Without hesitation, the guy still declared that he wanted to study, and this was his final choice. Then the man asked him to get ready, because he intended to arrange for someone to escort the guy to registration. The upset hero also wanted to know about his comrades at the sentry post. They are all excellent fighters, and the army will provide them with second-class individual and group awards. There is no need to worry about them, because the army will provide everything necessary for the funeral, and they will never insult their heroes who shed their blood for their nation. Walking past a hangar with military equipment, the hero did not notice something surprising above his head. Numerous military helicopters began to fly over him, heading somewhere. Gradually approaching one of his comrades, the hero saw him standing with a machine gun at a checkpoint. Coming closer, he greeted his friend and, picking up the envelope, said that he had come to study. A colleague at work immediately told him to follow him. Together, they headed somewhere to begin their training. The brave warrior was brought to a site where many soldiers stood with machine guns, fully equipped. Luo Zheng announced that he had come to register, after which he asked to begin training. The commander, looking down on him, examined him and realized that he was the same fighter close to the deployment. Events developed on the field of a special training camp. The commander ordered that his questions be answered without regard to his past, and he despised those who came here through favoritism. In deep shock, the guy exclaimed that he had not come because of favoritism. The commander, pointing his hand at his soldiers in the ranks, demonstrated his commanding position. After completing top-level military competitions, these soldiers were selected and given the opportunity to train here. It had only been 3 days since the training began, and suddenly soldiers were sent here, which clearly seemed like favoritism. The experienced commander ordered the soldier to listen carefully, since he did not want to waste time on those who only seek authority. So he was told that the guy could watch the training and use the equipment until he caused trouble, and the instructor wasn't going to pay him any attention. The guy was in complete amazement. He did not expect something like this to happen. In addition, the man assured him that at the end of the training, he would be able to vouch for him, and the soldier would be qualified. And however, it would not be just like that, an exchange, and he would keep a close eye on the kitchen. Then the soldier realized that it was useless to try to explain something, and it was not just that he was here because of the colonel's instructions. Luo Zheng realized that it was useless to argue with the commander, and agreed to these conditions, expressing his consent without objection. The commander was delighted, told where the canteen was located, and explained that the soldier would stay there. If he needs something, he just needs to go to the warehouse, and lunch starts at 13. And if the food is not ready, he will have problems. After listening to the captain, the hero only saluted him, obediently following the orders given. At this time, the soldiers whispered among themselves, realizing how unattractive this position was. Sometime later, the guy was standing at the buffet, preparing food for all the soldiers. Carefully following the order, he tasted each portion to evaluate the taste of the dish. Luckily, he managed to prepare the food in time, noticing that it was only 12. Soon the captain appeared, deciding to check the recruit's progress. Without hesitation, Luo Zheng informed him that the food was ready. The containers contained many different dishes, from which everyone could take as much as they wanted. The captain shouted for all the soldiers to come and began to enjoy their food. Sometime later, all the soldiers gathered in the mess hall to taste the dishes carefully prepared by Luo Zhenggom. Together with everyone else, the hero also ate food, while simultaneously thinking about one thing. Namely, he was thinking about whether all special camps were really so harsh and whether he really got here thanks to favoritism. But it didn't matter much to him, since Yaren Lanxiong had taught him many fighting techniques. If this person does not teach him, then he will train on his own. After some time, all the soldiers began their training with running, but the running took place in full equipment and with weapons. Watching all this, the hero was surprised that the run was carried out for 10 kilometers with an incredible load. While preparing food, he trained with dumbbells and did push-ups. He also watched other soldiers train in hand-to-hand combat. After a full day of work, the hero went out in the evening and ran 10 kilometers in full gear. Events continued a week later. A wild rattlesnake attacked an innocent mouse running across the lawn. Suddenly, the hero released his knife, easily hitting the dangerous predator, thereby protecting the weak mouse. Calmly continuing to watch, he saw the mouse running away from the dead snake. And he was glad that his method of ancestral breathing was getting better every time. Although he can only maintain it for about 3 hours, the feeling is noticeably improved. Thinking that he had successfully hunted, he also realized that running a canteen was not so bad, and if he walked not far away, he could calmly talk in privacy. As he left the forest, he was aware that problems might arise if the food was delayed. Breakfast was almost ready, and the captain asked the soldier to report, but he was busy and almost completed the preparation. Then the man asked to be given the opportunity to finish everything himself and asked the soldier to quickly have lunch so that he could then prepare for lunch. Smiling, the guy did not understand why such politeness and replied that everything was fine with him and he would eat later because there was no reason to rush. The captain shouted that he needed to carry out the order and let the soldier go and eat. Luo Zheng was clearly unhappy with the captain's behavior because his character quickly changed. Taking a container of food from the hero, he shouted that this guy couldn't even be a military cook. Suddenly, someone behind the captain asked if they could start since everyone had already gathered. Hearing a voice other than the instructor, Luo Zheng realized that this voice was familiar to him. Some guy was asking if they could start breakfast, since everyone was already there. In stranger, Luo Zheng immediately recognized his longtime partner named Song Yang. The newly arrived guy was also amazed to see his friend. Flashback to the events of a couple of months ago at the recruit training group, a large number of soldiers began their hard training. Thanks to his high endurance, the hero helped his allies overcome difficulties. However, one of his comrades exclaimed that he did not beat anyone, and in general, it was not Luo's business Jenga. As it turned out, Song Yan was a young master from the famous Song family, and the hero knew not to touch him. The guy who previously attacked his partner said that he doesn't care about his family, and they are not his authority. Luo Zheng didn't care and still hit the scoundrel who was attacking his partners. Sometime later, events unfolded in the training camp cafeteria. The captain is outraged that the guys are busy with the wrong things and orders the hero to prepare dinner. Suddenly, the hero realizes that the captain and Song Yang are in cahoots and they are friends or relatives. But despite this, he agrees to carry out the captain's order. The arrogant guy turns to the hero in farewell, telling him to just wait, and they will meet again. The villain mockingly asked the captain why Luo Zheng is here and ordered to simply kick him out, but the man explained that this may not be so simple. In response, the impudent exclaimed loudly, wondering if the word Song family really meant nothing anymore. While the captain tried to explain that this was not the point, and his stay was approved by the highest ranks, and it would be difficult for the captain to justify himself to the authorities if he simply threw the soldier out. However, he assured Mr. Song that there was no need to worry because he remembered the old agreement with the boss. He ordered Luo Zhengu stay here, cook food every day, without teaching him anything, and when the time comes, he will leave. The captain was going to give him a low rating and send him to a guard post in the middle of the wasteland. Song Yan planned to take revenge on him and hoped to find out how many lives could be sacrificed according to the training program. Stunned, the captain asked the mister not to do this because there was no need to go that far. Then the impudent man began to blackmail the captain, claiming that his father had asked for help a few days ago. The instructor just looked at him from the side, wondering what he should do next. Suddenly, the man remembered that he forgot to warn the recruits. Luo's life, Jenga here, is not easy, so he asked them not to disturb him at night. Meanwhile, Song Yan was thinking that the captain was already in a difficult situation and still pretended that everything was fine in his family, and he absolutely did not need such people. From behind, one of the soldiers shouted to his impudent comrade, asking if he had had dinner, because in the evening there were planned training exercises with combat ammunition. This fact pleased the scoundrel even more, and he was already thinking about what to do next. At this time, the heroes convinced one of the instructors that the main instructor agreed, and now he could use the equipment. The man reacted negatively to this, emphasizing that he would not be given any more ammunition, that all equipment would be distributed evenly, and that he should stop thinking that he would receive special treatment because of his connections. At this time, Song Yan was approaching, thinking that this matter was only between him and Luo Zhenga, and they will solve it slowly and carefully. It was late evening, and the hero also joined the military training, and all the soldiers were outraged that Luo Zheng is also present. It turned out that he himself decided to have dinner, since the instructor did not break his promise, and he had no other choice. The captain is outraged that his subordinates did not prepare food, and he calls them disorganized and undisciplined, saying that his brothers in arms may now starve. At this time, the guy shouted that the instructor should not line everyone up against him, since he knew very well why he could not cook dinner. Meanwhile, Song Yang approached, noticing that the hero was interacting rudely with his instructor and disrespecting his superiors, which made him feel more guilty. The brave warrior only met the insolent man's gaze and asked him to calm down his ambitions, since they still had unresolved matters, and it was pointless to fight such a loser a second time. This further angered the soldier hiding behind the captain, and he ordered Luo Zhengu come up and repeat his words. With a grin, the hero watched as the impudent man hid behind his boss, calling him a rooster. Unable to bear this, the captain shouted for both to shut up, since apparently the hero was going to quit training. He explained that it was because the captain was forcing him to quit training, and he wasn't even given equipment to practice, and staying here was a waste of time, and he wanted to see if the captain dared to expel him. He had previously explained to the captain that if he wanted Luo Zheng prepared 3 meals, then you need to provide him with training and ammunition. Otherwise, he would have to return to the military district and report his experience here, and he really didn't care whether he trained or not. Now, all the soldiers know that Luo Zheng came here under orders from the military district, and this guy has a really strong alibi. Even Song Yan was amazed that Luo Zheng was able to establish connections in the military district. The captain ignored the situation and asked who told him that he had no ammunition, since this was an absurd statement. And he also said that today they are training without shooting. Exercises with combat ammunition will begin only in 3 days, and then everyone will be given ammunition, and for this reason he left his brothers hungry. Luo Zheng admitted it was a misunderstanding, and it won't happen again. Turning to the offending soldier, the captain warned that it would not happen again, and then asked the soldiers to disperse. All the soldiers discussed that the instructor has no right to punish him, and it will be interesting, and one of them is a young master from the Song family, and the other is under the influence of the military district. At this time, events took place in a prestigious villa in the capital. Suddenly, someone knocked on Yurina Lanxiong's door, and she replied that it was already late, and if they wanted to talk to her, they had to wait until tomorrow. The knocking on the door intensified, and it turned out that it was her little sister who came to visit the girl in person. She finally decided to open the door for her. The lady was glad to see her sister arrive because they had not seen each other for a long time, and she affectionately called her the Snow Queen. The sisters were very similar, and one of them asked if the other had received all the information. Suddenly, one of the sisters grabbed the other's hand. After asking Yarina Lanxiong to wait, one of the sisters reminded her that she had asked for a certain task to be done for her, and now it was important to follow the established rules. This night, she will have to share a bed with her little sister. New events were developing in the Lan family home. The sister, indignant, demanded that the girl talk to the point, otherwise she threatened to kick her out of the room. This was truly cruel to her beloved sister, and it was understandable why people called her a cold-blooded beauty. Then the older sister decided to get out of bed to calm the situation. Yarin Lanxiong looked at her younger sister, who admitted that she would not have helped if she were not her sister. At the same time, Lady realized that without the Song family, everything in her life would have developed completely differently. The sister was thinking that perhaps Yarin did not want to get involved with their family for fear that her father might sell her, and it seemed like she needed to join their family through marriage and then get rid of her ties to the Song family. After these words, the sister could not stand it and threw a pillow at the youngest. Then she threateningly warned that if she repeated this again, she would be gagged. After this, a serious conversation began, and according to the information, the instructor was a soldier under Song Shibo, and her lover Song Yang once contacted him in the recruit camp. He took advantage of this. His only task was cooking, and he never participated in training. The older sister clearly did not like this, and the younger sister began to make excuses because she did not want to be to blame for this situation. One day, her lover, who had caused the instructor's bewilderment by his appearance in public, was given the opportunity to participate in ammunition training after the instructor lost the ability to speak, and he was clearly a serious competitor. This brought satisfaction to the girl, who continued to have feelings for Luo Zhenga. The little sister quickly noticed that her older sister had fallen in love, and her feelings began to grow, like an iceberg melting. Such guesses outraged Yarina Lanxiong, and she thought that her younger sister was threatening her because she had previously had a relationship with Luo Zhengum. But this was not the case, and she wanted to talk about stupid Songyan, who did not notice anything between them, and her lover knew nothing about her clashes with Songyan. Documents about that mission have long been recorded, and the meeting probably occurred by chance during training. The younger sister showed even more interest, wanting to know how the confrontation between Songyan and Luo would develop. Zhengum. The elder sister asked her to avoid problems, since the younger sister had already learned a lot. After that, the youngest was asked to go to her room, since it was late and she was asking too many unnecessary questions. The offended younger sister began to leave, unhappy with being kicked out by Yarin Lanxiong. After leaving the room, the girl thought that this situation could not continue, and it was dangerous for Luo to remain. Zhenga is there. Then she picked up the phone and immediately started calling someone. She made her call to her brother, who could hardly believe that he was being called. It turned out to be her cousin, to whom she offered help in training soldiers, taking advantage of the opportunity that arose. She planned to conduct training in a special camp. Sometime later, events unfolded in the training camp, and the soldiers were approaching the finish line, and the latter were expected to run another 10 kilometers under pressure, because this is no place for weaklings. At this time, one of the soldiers took notes, noting that one of the tests was a 5-stage slide and a deep pit with a high wall. This soldier was Luo Zheng, who was musing that the 400-meter steeplechase training course looked good, and he should have rushed to get dinner ready, so he could study in the evening. At this time, someone approached the commander's car and started talking to him. It was Song Yang who asked the commander to help him, as he wanted to rest. The commander agreed, on the condition that the rest would not lead to serious consequences. The scoundrel assured that the instructor had nothing to worry about, because he knew what he was doing. With a grin, the scoundrel thought that the time had come, and for his activities, it was important for him to be spoken well of. Suddenly, one of the soldiers followed Mr. Song and addressed him. The soldier wanted to know what the instructor was saying, and it turned out that they had something planned for that evening. The enthusiastic soldier eagerly awaited further instructions. Song Yang, a notorious scoundrel, explained that they would get down to the most important thing, and he would not need any benefit. The selfless soldier was ready to help the scoundrel just like that and deal with the situation today. Night fell, and the three soldiers headed somewhere, slowly approaching the building they were planning to sneak into. Having opened the door, they were frightened by what they saw, because behind the door there was something unexpected. There was no one in the room. As it turned out, they did not get to one of the soldiers, who was absent at that moment. The sinister guy exclaimed, asking where Luo was Zheng, because he wasn't here. Suddenly, the three soldiers heard footsteps approaching them. They quickly disappeared, trying not to be seen or heard. Hiding behind various objects, the soldiers began to wait for the approaching person. It was the main character who fell through the window of his room, trying to return and go to bed as quickly as possible. He was glad to finally be back home, and after the ordeal with the wall, climbing through the windows seemed like a piece of cake. Suddenly, the soldiers grabbed Luo Zhenga and threw him to the ground, preparing to do something terrible. They put a bag on him so that he could not determine who exactly attacked him. Without understanding what to do, the hero began to endure devastating blows as the sinister soldiers beat him from all sides. Taking wooden sticks in their hands, they struck the guy with full force, sparing no effort. Then they began to kick him, as if they were trying to finish him off, to take his life. Suddenly, Luo Zheng took the knife out of its sheath and began to use it to attack his offenders. With sweeping movements of the knife, he was able to damage the leg of one of the attackers who dared to attack him. The wounded soldier immediately tried to leave, and the hero gradually removed the bag that was on his head. Song Yan angrily hit the main character on the head so that he could not reveal who attacked him. From a strong blow, the guy lost consciousness and spent the whole night lying on the floor. In the morning, he was still lying unconscious due to the strong blow. Sometime later, the hero began to come to his senses, experiencing incredible pain due to his splitting head. Taking the bag off his head, he screamed in pain and gradually looked around. Sometime later, events continued in the dining room in the morning. All the soldiers were having breakfast at the buffet. Some soldiers discussed that important people were beaten and could not understand how this happened, since they have friends among the higher ranks. Meanwhile, the captain announced that management had appointed a new instructor, and the meeting was to begin at the training ground in 5 minutes. With surprise, the hero thought that the new instructor might have been sent to check his condition and convince him that he was still alive. Literally a few seconds later, a girl entered the room, saying that there was no need for an introduction, and she could introduce herself. The girl introduced herself as a new instructor named Thorn Rose. All the soldiers were amazed that the new instructor was a woman. They had never heard of a woman training a Special Forces battalion. Suddenly, Instructor Thorn Rose turned and looked at one of the soldiers. First, Luo Zheng didn't understand why she was smiling, but then realized that it was actually Yaren Lan Xiong. The new instructor announced that the training would begin in 5 minutes at the main gate of the training ground. After 5 minutes, the commander introduced the new shooting instructor. At the same time, the man did not understand what games the command was playing, because a new shooting instructor suddenly appeared. Luo had arrived with them, Zheng. Noticing that there were 33 recruits in the group, but here there were only 32, the girl asked why this happened. The guy was confused and didn't know what to answer. Thornrose didn't care about the reason for his absence and ordered him to do 3 laps around the training field. The unshakable hero saluted and replied that he would carry out the order. Having moved a little to the side, he reflected that this girl seemed very familiar to him. The thought occurred to him that perhaps this was a female sniper. Informing that the run was over and he was awaiting further instructions, the hero was ordered to get into formation to take up a training position. Other soldiers were already doing their training and shooting with sniper rifles. Seeing the rifle, the hero realized that it was QB-88. Fortunately, Yarin Lanxiong had already taught him how to use it. Thornrose ordered all soldiers to reload their rifles and complete their firing preparations. The masterful hero began aiming through the optical sight as if he already had experience shooting with this sniper rifle. Looking at his opponent, Song Yan also thought that he looked like he already had shooting skills. Unfortunately, the hero could not focus on the target, which was more than 600 meters away, and his instincts failed him again. According to the instructor's orders, the soldiers still needed to fire the shot, and the results had to be assessed right away. Thornrose finally decided to look at the results. A Special Forces battalion soldier must have a minimum of 85 points at this distance. She exclaimed that they were all trash, since the best score was only 80 points, and one of the soldiers had 0. The captain immediately wanted to know who shot at target number 11 and missed. It turned out that it was Luo Zheng. At this moment, Thornrose asked with interest why he missed. His companions said that he was just a soldier with friends in high places. However, he does not know how to shoot a machine gun. He only knows how to cook. After the statements of Thorn's partners, Rose decided to hear the soldier's own opinion. The hero explained that his partners were right and he could not shoot at a static target, but if he was taken hunting with him, he could shoot a couple of wild animals to improve his diet. This initiative pleased the woman, and she ordered everything to be done as he said. Now this rifle was his, and he no longer had to come to training. The captain also shouted at him to leave and pick up his weapon. The neighboring soldiers did not approve of this outcome of the conflict, since in the end the woman helped the hero. At some point, Thornrose stood by the tree and Luo Zheng noticed this. The girl instantly realized that someone was approaching her, and by the steps she recognized that it was a hero, and then she asked if he was going to the mountains. The soldier, with painful doubts, wanted to know if she knew Yarin Lanxiong. Suddenly, the lady exclaimed how he had not yet recognized her, and this was a great disappointment. The stunned soldier could not believe that it was really Yarin Lanxiong. She wore artificial skin made from silicone gel and went through so much trouble before her sister borrowed some of the stuff. The embarrassed couple couldn't believe they were meeting again, thinking it would only happen 2 years later. Suddenly, Yarin Lanhong herself removed her hands and became even more embarrassed. The soldier didn't understand why she was hiding her identity and wanted to know if there was something here that she was afraid of. At that moment, the girl thought that he himself was under the close attention of the Song family, but he was still thinking about how he could help her, and she said that this would be enough, and it would be disadvantageous for him if someone saw them together. The soldier wanted Yarin Lanxiong to stop teasing him, but he just needed to focus on his work and not worry about the rest. Turning to the hero one last time, the lady told him not to disappoint her, after which she began to leave. Disappointed, Luo Zheng watched the love of his life walk away from him without explaining anything. Meanwhile, he thought that he would definitely not disappoint his love. At the same time, the captain wanted to find out from Mr. Song what happened to the female instructor, as he wanted to understand what was happening. The scoundrel named Song Yan lay quietly on the sofa and read a book, answering that he had already sent someone to find out. The wary man explained that it seems Luo Zheng has the support of the military district, and he is afraid that this female instructor may have been appointed by the authorities. This did not reassure the guys at all, because he believed that she was just an instructor and this was not so important. Now, the main thing is to lure Luo out Jenga from the training group. The scoundrel was planning. Being afraid, the man wanted to know what was meant by luring out. The cunning guy just smiled and postponed his answer, preferring to take his time. The instructor continued to press for clarification, believing that Mr. Song had gone too far, and if he had something to say, he should just say it. At this moment, the guy didn't ask if Luo was going to Zheng hunt in the mountains. Then he said that he would have to ask the instructor to monitor the trail. The restless instructor instantly guessed that the impudent Song Yan intended to eliminate Luo Zhenga in the forest. After all, it wasn't very safe to be alone in the mountains. Events unfolded on the hills at night. The hero completed training 8 minutes earlier than the previous one, and it was already dark, and he had to return to camp. A strange noise was coming from the depths of the forest, and birds were flying into the sky, and the guy realized that something unusual was happening. Hidden behind a rock, he gazed at his surroundings and tried to understand what was happening around him. And suddenly, with horror, he discovered something amazing, taking out a sniper rifle for his protection. Someone incredibly fast was moving between the trees, and the hero was amazed at how fast this person was, and he had no idea who it could be. The stunned guy concluded that this scoundrel was scouting the camp, and he was the enemy. The enemy soldier almost noticed Luo Zhenga, but he continued to hide behind a stone, taking a sniper rifle with him. He made every effort to remain invisible and sought to eliminate the enemy. The enemy was slowly approaching and was already almost at the hero. But then, the enemy soldiers ordered the guy to appear, claiming that he had been spotted. Stunned, Luo Zheng began to look around and realized that there were several enemies here. Looking through the optical sight, he saw a terrifying picture that he could not have foreseen. In the hero's optical sight, allies are visible running through the forest with knives in their hands. Song Yan burst out shouting, urging him to come out and fight him face to face if the hero has the courage. The hiding man announced that he did not think he would be discovered. Apparently, he underestimated the soldiers stationed at the military base. While the hero followed events, he had to face the thought that his own allies were trying to kill him. Seeing another soldier, Song Yan was at a loss and asked who he was. The experienced soldier replied that he had come to take their lives. After that, he attacked the soldiers who noticed him. Allied soldiers with knives tried to defeat a villain who had entered the forest and was trying to infiltrate a military base. The experienced man easily neutralized the two soldiers and headed towards Song Yan. With every second, he was getting closer, ready to respond with a blow that would neutralize the villain. The blow caught the insolent soldier, causing him to scream in pain. The powerful blow squeezed the last strength out of him. At this time, the hero was wondering how the training camp could have such weak soldiers, and suddenly a shot rang out. The experienced soldier deftly dodged, avoiding being hit in the head. The hero could not believe his eyes when he saw how this man dodged a bullet, which is beyond the power of ordinary soldiers. Unknown man disappeared. Go beyond Luo View Jenga. At that time, the guy felt that the enemy had not left and was still being watched. From the bushes, the enemy shouted that he did not expect to meet such a cold-blooded sniper, and they would meet next time. Suddenly, the hero felt a sense of calm and felt that the enemy had left while the instructor and other soldiers approached the wounded. Thornrose noticed the wounded, arrogant soldier and thought he deserved it. The captain ordered the wounded soldiers to be immediately taken to the infirmary. Fearing the possible consequences, the captain sought to find out who could organize an attack on their training camp and whether anyone would dare to take such a step. And at the same time, it occurred to him that if Song Yang was behind everything, this could put an end to his military career. The instructor began to actively investigate, and the captain waited anxiously to see if she would find any evidence. Suddenly, the female instructor discovered something important and decided that she needed to act immediately. Then she suggested that the enemy was very powerful and it was useless to detain only soldiers here, and she decided to stay behind to investigate and instructed the captain to lead the troops back, and this incident should be reported as quickly as possible. The man involved in the crime realized that this woman's strength is beyond comprehension, and even if she claims that the enemy is strong, perhaps it is better to keep it a secret. The captain gave the order to the soldiers to collect the wounded and begin to retreat. The soldiers immediately began to carry out the commander's order, and the girl waited, as if expecting something. Yurina Lanxiong ordered the hero to leave, claiming that there was no one else here, and the soldier guessed that it was useless to hide from her. The girl was only interested in what happened, and then he said that this time he had Song Yan to thank and was going to tell the whole story. Having discovered the enemy's reconnaissance position, the girl realized that this was the best place to observe the camp, and according to Luo's words, Jenga, Song Yang wanted him to give himself away. But he didn't think that his actions would bring anyone else to the camp. However, his injury turned out to be quite serious, and he will have to recover for some time. Song Yang and the others are getting their due, and they deserve to be punished for their actions. However, the guy also thought that the mission of the mysterious man in black may have been aborted, and he is too confident in his abilities. The girl, meanwhile, believed that the enemy might return when he saw that the troops had retreated. After carefully thinking about what happened, she decided to ask the hero his opinion about this incident. He explained that this person does not realize that there is someone as powerful as her here. Together, they figured out that they could ambush the enemy. 20 minutes have already passed, but the enemy has not appeared, and perhaps the hero began to doubt the correctness of his assumptions. While scanning the forest through his telescopic sight, he suddenly noticed approaching enemies heading towards a reconnaissance position for an allied military camp. The alarmed guy screamed quietly, realizing that the enemy was already here and ready to shoot at him. The hidden soldier slowly approached the reconnaissance position, keeping an eye on the enemy positions. While the hero was worried whether he had revealed his position and whether his enemy had sensed him from such a distance. Suddenly a shot rang out, and Luo Zheng immediately guessed that it was an arrow fired by Yurina Lanxiong. This well-aimed shot hit him right in the head, hopelessly neutralizing the enemy with one shot. Surprised, he realized that the new enemy had amazing power, and he was not sure if he could ever surpass it. Examining the enemy's body, the lady wanted to understand what he had with him and why he was here. At this time, the hero came closer, asking if she had found anything and if she could tell where he came from. When examining the body, they did not find a tattoo on the chest. It was a sign of the army of wild wolves, and as it turned out, they came for Luo Zhenggam. He couldn't believe that his actions could lead to such serious problems. The wild wolves are the bear's enemies, and they killed his people. They clearly came for revenge. Although the hero himself had no fear of wild wolves, the situation seemed rather strange. He didn't understand how they could have known he was here. It was supposed to be a top secret. Looking confidently at the guy, the girl said that she would sort it out, and he had nothing to worry about as long as she was here. No one would be able to touch him. The guy was embarrassed, but he was grateful that she was protecting him, although it seemed strange to him to hide behind the girl's back, especially as a man and a soldier. Yurine Lanxiong said that today he slept with 3 people, and she will report this incident to the command, and he may have to answer for his actions. She also asked that someone else be put in charge of the kitchen so he could focus on training. In any case, she was already leaving, and he would have a hard time explaining how anyone could see them together. Unfortunately, the hero was still far from reaching the level that would allow him to fulfill the promise made 2 years ago. And now he has to carefully monitor every change in his body caused by training. Turning and looking at Luo Zhenga, Lady couldn't understand the strange grimace of expression he had on his face. Perhaps it was a manifestation of male self-esteem. Some time passed, and events continued to develop near the waterfall. The courageous hero continued his training at night, realizing that there were only 2 years left before the end of his 2-year sentence. During these 2 years, his passion for becoming stronger only intensified, exceeding his previous expectations. Morning came, and the guy was completely exhausted, trying to make his way back to the camp, feeling unbearably tired and wanting to sleep. With his eyes closing from fatigue, he noticed that a girl was standing in front of him. Unfortunately, he still fell to the ground and lost consciousness because the fatigue was too strong. Sometime later, he found himself in the hospital, lying in a hospital bed. The doctor announced that the guy was simply overtired. He needs rest now, otherwise his life will be in danger if he continues to train so intensely. Then, the instructors decided to keep him for a while longer, after which they expressed gratitude to the doctor for his care. This did not pose a problem because doctors always had enough to work with other patients. After some time, Lady decided to write to her younger sister because she needed help dealing with the situation. She wanted to find out how the army of wild wolves was able to infiltrate the training camp. However, the sister did not respond to this question, preferring to discuss her relationship with Luo Zhenggam. Without losing her resolve, Lady continued to call people who could help her. Deciding to turn to her cousin, she asked him to remember whether in the last 5 years there had been any news about an outstanding Special Forces sniper. Then the cousin expressed interest in what exactly the girl meant. It turned out that there was nothing special about it. She just discovered a man with outstanding abilities and did not want his talent to remain unclaimed. Hearing this, the cousin promised to come and check the situation, and he also inquired if anything had happened to Sister Lady and asked her not to worry, and he assured that she would be protected if necessary. At this time, the lady decided to ensure the safety of the main character by being here. Meanwhile, someone was watching what was happening all this time. It was Song Yan who realized that Yarin Lan Xiong was conspiring with him, and he even hired wild wolves, but the hero survived. Now he wanted to see if they would get lucky a second time. After several hours, the hero finally woke up and sought to find out why he was there. Doctors immediately stopped him, warning him to stay in bed and still have to have his pulse and other vital signs checked. The doctor could not believe his eyes because the patient who was almost carried away was now already alive. Laughing, the hero explained that he always came to his senses quickly, even when he was young. While he was thinking about this, he realized that despite his breathing technique, the girl had still seen him pass out after training. Pleased that everything was now in order, the doctor allowed him to leave, but warned him that he should have a good rest before training again. Instructor Thorn Rose left his weapon here and asked him not to forget to take it with him and also to give him a few more important details. Namely, when he wakes up, she will need to meet him in her room. Events unfolded that night in Thorn's room Rose. Evening came, and the hero decided to knock on his instructor's door. When he saw her, he was immediately confused, but she ordered him to enter. She learned that he wanted to improve his skills, and they should work out his training plan together. This question confused the guy, and he wanted to clarify whether she invited him only for this purpose. This question stunned the lady, and she wanted to understand why else she could invite him to her room. Sometime later, the training continued, and the hero was shooting at targets. Using a sniper rifle, he took 10 aimed shots at a target and scored 80 points. This result did not satisfy Luo Zhenga, and he strived to achieve higher results. The determined guy said that he was going to do other types of training and promised to score at least 90 points over the next 10 days. The lady understood that he scored 80 points at the 1,000-meter distance, which is quite enough to enter the special forces. And before this guy became her protector, she needed to protect him. Intense training continued, and today could be called a success because he rested a little before returning back. As he continued to meditate, he thought about how he needed to be alert despite the tense atmosphere around him. This turned out to be not in vain, since a certain soldier pointed a pistol directly at his head and was about to shoot. The stunned guy expressed interest in who he was, and he was told that his comrades were nearby. The experienced soldier explained that in this situation, retreat tactics were useless. He was exploring the area with his companion, and there was not a single person around, so no one could save him. The hero did not understand how this was possible, since he did not feel another presence. The enemy soldier ordered him to answer as he demands, and then the guy would receive a painless death. Feeling afraid, the guy asked what the enemy soldier wanted to know from him. Suddenly, the scoundrel asked where Luo was, Zheng. This struck the hero even more, and he absolutely did not know how to react to it. Since the soldier did not hear the answer, he was going to kill him. Suddenly, an unexpected shot rang out, and someone was about to finish off the villain who attacked. Then Luo Zheng realized that he had a chance to escape from here. He hastily began to leave the place where he had been earlier. Dodging the rain of bullets, he tried to take cover behind a rock, thinking that the enemy soldier no longer had a companion, therefore, someone had saved him. And it turned out that it was Yarin Lanxiong shouting Luo Zhengu that she is here. Carrying a sniper rifle with you, Thorn Rose wanted to know if he was attacked by an army of wild wolves, and he was, and she follows him and thinks that he is one of them. Fortunately, the lady guessed that the wild wolves would not give up, so she hid next to him all this time. Hearing this, the hero realized that Yarin Lanxiong had been protecting him all this time while he was training. This time it might be more difficult, since the soldier deftly dodged her shot, and it is not so easy for such an experienced fighter to retreat. The hero also noticed that he was looking for Luo Zhenga, but has no idea who it is, knowing only his name. Information that Luo Zheng is in training camp, it became clear. The events unfolded in a training camp, where the people on the tower died at the hands of this soldier. When they arrived at the camp, they encountered an enemy soldier armed with a machine gun, who destroyed everyone in his path. An attempt to hit him with shots was unsuccessful, as the scoundrel skillfully dodged the bullets. Realizing that this soldier was much more experienced than the wolf soldiers, the girl realized that this was Silver Claw. The master of the Silver Claw, known as the Blood Wolf, is one of the founders of the Wild Wolf Army and is one of the top 10 snipers in the world. Realizing that he needed to save his brothers, Luo Zheng realized that there was little cover ahead and it was too dangerous to move there. It was urgent to find a safe place, and the lady tried to convince everyone to stay inside. Thorn Rose deftly navigated her way through training camp's obstacles. Dodging enemy shots, she broke a window into the room where the soldiers were located to warn them. The captain and other soldiers were shocked by what was happening, but fortunately they saw a girl who came to their aid. The soldiers and the captain immediately wanted to know from Thorn Rose, what is happening outside? And it turns out to be an enemy attack from a very strong enemy, and everyone is ordered to stay in the barracks and not go out, as the enemy is an expert and the highest vantage point must be reached first. Due to the need for a wider view, the girl ran to the roof of one of the buildings, but was already noticed by an enemy sniper. The enemy continued to continuously shoot at the lady, almost hitting her with a sniper rifle. Meanwhile, the hero discovered an ideal place for an ambush, a foxhole, and realized that this was a good hiding position. Then he began head towards her. From an ambush, he saw the villain, acting as an enemy, shoot at Thorn Rose, realizing that he needed to act. The guy also realized that he needed to find out the location of another enemy ally. In a sniper duel, both sides must act quickly and silently. Especially when facing such a powerful opponent, it's important to make sure you notice every variable. Using his senses, the hero discovered the enemy hiding in a shelter. Suddenly, he noticed that a second enemy was moving directly towards him, trying to take the same position, and the air around him felt different, indicating the presence of a second enemy. The inexperienced soldier decided to fire a shot to destroy the enemy and eliminate the threat. The bullet hit the enemy, but he managed to hide behind the nearest cover. Seeing this, the hero could not believe his eyes, since even such an accurate shot did not destroy the enemy. The villain fired many times, directing the fire directly at Luojenga, and the previous shot was just pushing his position. And this opponent turned out to be a real disciple of Bloodwolf. Suddenly, the hero felt that something was happening in the camp. These were the surviving soldiers. They were fully equipped and armed, ready to fight. The captain ordered them to form into groups of 3 and carefully explore the camp and valley. Seeing his beloved, the hero was glad that she was alive and well. Approaching the hero, the girl asked if everything was okay with him. Suddenly, she noticed an enemy machine gun lying on the floor. All the soldiers instantly realized that Luo Zheng shot one of the enemies. Looking at him, Yurine Lan Xiong realized that he lived up to her expectations. The captain expressed satisfaction with the fighter's work, because if the villain made his way to the ambush site, they would be in danger. And the captain did not expect that Luo Zheng would be here and not afraid, trusting his sniper skill. The guy explained that he simply disappeared at the right moment and waited for the right opportunity. The lady ordered the captain to quickly report what was happening and then asked Luo Zheng to go with her. She said that she did not expect such insignificant individuals to pursue them so persistently. The hero did not understand who exactly she was talking about. In any case, it became dangerous for them to linger here. The guy tried to explain that the order came from the military district, and he was worried about the possibility of not fulfilling it, but the girl calmed him down, assuring him that she could solve this problem. All this time, Songyan watched them, expressing indignation at what had happened. This guy clearly had no intention of giving up his revenge. The army of wild wolves sent him losers who failed the task. Events unfolded at the training ground the next day. The captain urged the soldiers to boost their morale by not allowing the losers to remain here. Suddenly, an armored military vehicle pulled up, and the captain immediately noticed it. An unknown man got out of the car, heading towards the instructor. It turned out that this was their commander, to whom the captain immediately saluted. The man noticed that the captain had not yet received notification of his arrival and decided to interrupt his training. The worried captain explained that he didn't know what the commander's instructions were and was glad to see his sister, who seemed to be up to something. The commander reported that there was an acute shortage of snipers in the special forces, and taking advantage of the free time, he decided to check if there were talented snipers here. The stunned man found it difficult to believe what was happening, but the commander explained that the training camp was obliged to prepare young soldiers for special forces. The man ordered Thorn Rose select 10 people, give them a magazine of ammunition, set up 10 targets, and order them to shoot at the same time. And if talented snipers are found, the commander will immediately take them with him. The captain was amazed by this unexpected opportunity and did not expect that Thorn Rose will serve under Cambridge. The commander explained that his time was limited and asked the captain to consult with Thorn Rose. Hearing this, the captain could hardly believe that this was happening and that his trainer would become part of the commander's team. The man ordered Thorn Rose organizes sniper skills testing to find talented soldiers. Having agreed unquestioningly, the captain went to call the soldiers. Events unfolded at the training ground, where the soldiers gathered and lined up. The training was completed successfully, the instructor confirmed. The commander hesitated, asking which soldier should take the test, but then noted that it was time to begin so as not to waste time. The soldiers held sniper rifles in their hands, ready to shoot accurately. Using his skills, the hero successfully hit the target. While conducting aimed fire, he made several successful shots, accurately hitting the target. The hero announced the end of the shooting, and Song Yan couldn't understand what game this guy was playing and why he finished it so quickly. The commander assumed that the shooter was fast because he was showing excessive nervousness. Thornrose came to his defense, claiming that they would be surprised by his abilities. It is important that the soldier speaks with confidence, and the commander hopes that this one will not let him down. The captain reported that all soldiers had completed target shooting. All the soldiers lined up to present the results. Seeing the marks, the captain noted that all the soldiers received 60 or 70 points and asked if there were anyone with more outstanding results. The captain then asked who was shooting at target number 6 and ordered them to come forward. It turned out to be Luo Zheng who came forward, admitting that it was him. The result amazed the girl, who saw how accurate the shots were. The target was hit right in the middle, and the hero earned the highest score. The commander realized that the guy had the potential to compete with experienced snipers and recognized his incredible abilities. Keeping his promise, the captain told Luo Zhenggu collects things, they leave. The rest of the soldiers remained stunned. Only the hero realized what was happening. He guessed that the arrival of the commander of the special forces was associated with the influence of Yarin Lan Xiong. The restless captain tried to persuade the commander to carefully select and test other soldiers. The irritated commander rejected the captain's offer and declared that he would decide who to choose. The captain, not expecting such an answer, refused to interfere further. The angry commander expressed his dissatisfaction and turned to Thornrose with questions, after which she also went with them. A second later, the commander turned his attention to his squad. The remaining soldiers also wanted to join the special forces, but their skills were insufficient. So if Luo's training Jenga will be just as successful, they will have to replace the captain. The excited guy saluted, assuring that he would never let the commander down. The commander then ordered Luo Zhenggu follow him. They headed to the armored car, preparing to leave. Song Yan watched everything that was happening closely and was the most angry of all. By intervening, Song Yan did not express his feelings to the commander, but only assured him that he understood the essence of the problem, and if he did not need anything else, then he was going to leave. The captain realized that the situation was not so simple, and doubts arose about Song Yan's reaction. After some time, Song Yan became even more angry after realizing that Yarin Lan Xiong had used the commander to take away her boyfriend, and this was a cunning move against the Song family that would not go unanswered. At that time, the commander, sniper, and instructor were traveling in an armored vehicle. The commander inquired about the name of the new sniper who was ready to join their ranks. The hero responded in a confident voice, emphasizing that he was determined and confident in his abilities to become a soldier. This answer inspired the guy, and he looked forward to his service. Then the commander asked if the soldier knew where he was being taken, but the guy had no idea. Concerned, the man again asked if the soldier knew what the commander wanted from him, but the guy again replied that he did not know. Hearing this answer, the commander asked if the guy was afraid of what they could do to him, otherwise they would commit fraud. The hero confidently stated that he had no reason to doubt the commander. This whole situation made the girl smile, knowing what was really going on. She asked the commander to stop teasing the soldier and announced that Lu Cheng was her cousin. He was also one of them. Luo Zheng was amazed by this revelation, not believing that the commander was related to the girl. Lu Cheng himself was also amazed that this guy was also their peer. Addressing the girl, the commander asked whether he should have tried so hard, since it took a lot of effort to carry out the operation. The girl began to take off her wig and said that now he was their soldier, and she wanted to know what he thought about her. At this moment, Lu Cheng reported that Yurin Longong had kept her promise, and within a year he should take first place in the Special Forces sniper competition. In a confident voice, the guy confirmed that he agreed with the conditions and would not let any of them down. He saw the girl next to him laughing again. The commander only noted that youth is wonderful. The embarrassed lady asked when her cousin learned to joke so well. The man just laughed and promised not to touch this topic again. The embarrassed and blushing guy now didn't know what to do. Events continued at the Special Forces building. An armored vehicle pulled up and they had to head into the building. The lady asked her cousin to go ahead while she gave the soldier some instructions. Having said the last word, the man asked Luo Zhenga go to his office in the second building, last room left. The commander began to get out of the car, and all the soldiers immediately saluted him. At that moment, when only the two of them remained in the car, the girl asked if he blamed her for bringing him here without permission. She explained that she did it for his benefit, and he was ineffective, always relying only on her protection. Covering the hero's mouth, Yurina Lanxiong ordered him not to speak like that again. The embarrassed guy only said that it was time for him to go, because the commander was waiting for him, and he got out of the armored vehicle and closed the door. She couldn't tell him the whole truth, but he had to remember the promise. She would take care of the rest. Turning to the girl, the guy promised that he would never forget his promise. She begged him to concentrate on training and not flirt with other girls. Otherwise, she would never forgive him for it. The guy didn't expect to hear something like this from the girl he liked, but he agreed with her. The pleased lady ordered the soldier to leave. Knowing that he had one more year, he decided to focus on training and become the top sniper in the Special Forces. The commander was waiting for him, and the first thing he needed to do was visit his office. However, he had the feeling that he was being watched, although it was only a moment, and perhaps he was just imagining it. It didn't matter now, and he was probably just worried. Luo Zheng entered the Special Forces headquarters. While someone was actually watching the hero, several men were sitting in the bushes. One of them was surprised that he was noticed and thought this guy was really smart. Events unfolded 3 months later. The captain gathered the Special Forces to announce some important information. He also said that now they can accept their position more freely, and they will be instructed by the commander. The man intended to save them from long speeches and turn them into real Special Forces soldiers. Everything depends only on their performance today. Immediately after this, he said that tests would begin right now. A large group of soldiers approached the new arrivals, something unexpected for the new recruits. The first stage was martial arts. Everyone had to choose an opponent, and the one who could stand on his feet for 2 minutes would advance further. The test began, and the first soldier was thrown out because he could not stand for 2 minutes. Some still held out and gradually passed the tests. Everyone tried to show themselves as best as possible during training in order to remain safe and sound, but everyone failed. The group of soldiers were amazed at how difficult the task was, and the game turned out to be too much for them. Luo was next Zheng, and he needed to break ranks and choose his opponent. Before him were many soldiers, strong, and he had to choose any of them. The brave guy said that he was ready to fight any opponent. The experienced soldiers could not believe that they faced such a confident opponent, and each of them wanted to teach him a lesson. Then a commander named Lu Cheng ordered Shan Hu to come forward. The big soldier stepped forward and was ready to fight with the newcomer, who seemed to know nothing. The guy was looking forward to this fight and knew that it would be incredibly difficult. Then the commander said that if the soldier survived for 2 minutes, he would immediately be able to join his elite team. The other soldiers could not believe it, and after all, he had the honor of fighting with Shan Hu, the best fighter, and just because he is good in hand-to-hand combat does not mean that he is also strong in shooting. Experienced fighters also understood that the commander had his reasons, and this guy probably had incredible talent. The arrogant big man looked at the hero with an arrogant look and thought that he could not defeat him here, so he immediately invited him to surrender. Meanwhile, the commander announced that they were starting a duel. Gathering all his courage, the hero was ready to fight with the hefty soldier and confront him in a duel. Then the big man ordered him to go first and attack. Luo Zheng apologized to the huge soldier in advance and began his attack. His movements were extremely sharp and concentrated, and using his agility, he jumped to a high height and was about to perform an overhead strike. The experienced soldier saw this as a good move. But not so good, since the big guy was able to withstand the hero's attack with a counterattack. All the soldiers saw that he was trying to feint a knee strike, but he was unfortunately unlucky, and now he would feel the full force of brute force opposing his skills. The confrontation continued, and Luo Zheng grabbed the big man's leg to resist his blow. Dodging in time, he easily managed to avoid the blow from the elite soldier, and he jumped back. The confrontation continued, and all the newcomers were amazed at how experienced and strong Luo Zheng. Due to the enormous mass of the soldier's body, the hero could be thrown several meters to the side by using a push. Suddenly, the big man noticed that his center of gravity had shifted, and he began to gradually fall. Then the hero used a sweep to knock down the steadfast soldier, and he fell to the floor. He then counterattacked, landing a kick right on the big guy's head. The unshakable and strong soldier still stood as if nothing had happened. The big man ordered the hero to attack, but also understood that his skills were very good. Suddenly, someone said that time is up. The fighters of the elite unit did not expect this from an ordinary rookie who fought with their strongest fighter. The commander was also amazed by the hero's skills and praised him. Then he said he was passing. Sighing with relief, the hero awaited the commander's words, and he announced that he was declaring Luo Zheng is the winner of the competition, and the testing is successfully completed, and he now officially joins the elite special team. The rookies and the elite unit couldn't believe their eyes, and they had never seen a recruit being sent to an elite special forces team. Even the toughest fighter turned around to tell the guy that he was actually pretty good. And Luo himself, Zheng believed that the strongest fighter was very generous, and he was lucky that he only had 2 minutes to fight him. Sometime later, the commander called someone. He told his sister that things were very bad. That gifted guy she remembered during testing had arrogantly challenged Shan Hu, the best fighter, to a fight, and now his legs were broken, and the commander was afraid that he would no longer be able to serve as a soldier. Meanwhile, Luo Zheng approached the commander and noticed that he was calling someone. Having not heard an answer, Lu Cheng asked his sister to answer something because he believed that his words had shocked his sister. Yurina Lang Xiong said that her brother was a worthless liar, and she did not believe his words. The captain admitted that he really was lying, and the guy simply passed the qualifying tests to get into the elite league. The girl opened him up because he paused in every sentence and said that Luo Zheng was arrogant, and after training for so long, he would not lose to Shan Hu, whom he trained. Lu Cheng admitted that he was wrong, and just for the record, this guy passed the tests and joined the elite special forces and was not going to waste any more time because he is a special forces commander, and he still has a lot of unresolved matters. The hero could not help but laugh when faced with such a comical situation. The commander noticed his laughter and strictly ordered him to stop, ordering him to immediately join the ranks. The brave hero, saluting, immediately obeyed the order and lined up. 3 months later, events developed further. Luo Zheng struck up a friendship with a friend who constantly compared him to the best hero in the competition. The hero encouraged him, saying that he would train and teach him various techniques. Suddenly, another group of soldiers approached, actively searching for Luo Zhenga and his friend. It turned out that they had to complete an important mission together. Everyone was in the dark as to which of the 9 teams would go on this mission. The Alpha Sniper team dropped out due to injury, otherwise they wouldn't have had a chance. The captain called Luo Zhenga, telling him that the commander is waiting for him. Events developed near the commander's office, where the hero knocked on the door. Hearing the captain's praise outside the door, the hero was told that he had good training results, but as a new recruit, he did not have enough experience in real battles to take the position of a sniper. Having understood what we were talking about, Luo Zheng assured that everything was fine and that he still needed to prepare for future fights. The captain invited him in, warning him not to eavesdrop on conversations. The hero went to the commander's office to find out what was the matter. The commander spoke about the important mission and offered Luo Zhengu will take the place of sniper in the Alpha team. Luo's abilities Zhenga, even comparing him to a domestic cat. The hero reacted instantly, assuring the commander that the sniper needed a reliable substitute and his shooting was his strong point. Angry, the commander ordered him not to express absurdity and asked if he agreed. The faithful and devoted hero handed over the honor and told the commander that he was ready to perform his official duties and was awaiting new instructions. Some time passed, and the entire Alpha squad was completely assembled. One of the soldiers was amazed when the captain announced that Luo Zheng will take the place of the sniper. Some of the soldiers did not trust the newcomer because, despite the captain's claims about his shooting skills, they did not agree with it. The captain started shouting at them, emphasizing that this was an order and it was time to stop talking. The hero himself reflected that on the battlefield, every action is a matter of life and death, and his comrades must trust him. With a confident look, the captain turned to Luo Zhenga, asking how serious he was about showing off his skills. The elite soldiers persisted in their doubts about his abilities and asked him to demonstrate what he was capable of. This was not difficult for the hero, and he was going to hit the signal flag, which was located on a distant hill. Taking aim with the telescopic sight, he began to tune in to his target. The commander looked through binoculars and aimed his shot, indicating that the distance was approximately 800 meters. The confident hero only asked not to worry, claiming that he stood by his words. But even if he doesn't hit the target now, he will definitely leave this place. Without touching the trigger, he took aim to make an accurate shot. All the soldiers closely watched the sniper's every move. And finally, Luo Zheng fired a targeted shot that would determine what would happen next. Using all his skills, he easily hit the signal flag, which was 800 meters away. Each of the soldiers was amazed by the skill and skills of the hero. Then the guy smiled and asked his comrades with a smile if they were satisfied with his skills. The captain praised the hero and noted that such skills were comparable to those of their army's mentor, the king of snipers. All the soldiers were impressed by their comrade and wanted to know why he was hiding his skills, because he was a real ace in the hole. The platoon leader was impressed by Luo's skill Zhenga and announced that he was now accepted into the specialized Alpha troops. The confident and decisive hero agreed to this invitation. They decided to introduce themselves formally, and the team captain, Shan, known as Shan Hu, was the leader of Alpha Squad, and his determination, wisdom, and ability to make quick and correct decisions made him an authoritative leader who guided the team, inspired his teammates, and ensured consistency in the most difficult situations. Huang Lei, known as Lei Gong, was a skilled demolitionist, and his skill with explosives and setting traps made him an integral member of the team, and he was an expert in creating traps, mine-laying devices, and diffusing explosive items, using explosives tactfully and effectively. Jin Xin, known as Jin Diao, was an experienced intelligence officer, and his courage, dexterity, and skill in intelligence gathering made him a valuable asset to the team, and his ability to remain stealthy and quickly adapt to different environments helped him carry out intelligence tasks with high efficiency. Zhang Bao, known as Shan Bao, was an experienced stormtrooper whose courage, dedication, and combat skills made him a valuable member of the team, capable of effectively handling assault and defense missions. Fists crossed, they shouted together that they were Team Alpha. Now they were like brothers, ready to go through any difficulties and fight to the last. Sometime later, events continued to unfold in the Alpha Squad barracks. Each participant in the operation was required to study the plan for his secret mission, and armed bandits operating under the leadership of Kun Tai are attempting to smuggle illegal substances across the border. About 100 men, armed to the teeth, stand in defense of this escorted party, and they are professionals who are well acquainted with the environment. Their goal is to suppress the enemy's combat capability and successfully smuggle illegal substances, and 5 people are faced with such a significant number of enemies that learning the plan becomes a necessity, as failure is not tolerated. Each operative will receive a standard set of equipment. The rest of the equipment will be delivered in the usual way. The commander turned to Luo Zhenga, specifying what model of sniper rifle he should use and how much ammunition he will need, given his future training. Confident Luo Zheng indicated that he needed a CSLR-4 rifle and 200 standard rounds of ammunition. An arsenal of 100 high-explosive anti-tank charges and the same number of fuses was also ordered. This requirement shocked the commander, but he was ready to fulfill any request from such an experienced sniper. The next day, events unfolded. The commandos arrived on the battlefield fully equipped with the best available equipment that could be provided. The commander explained that drawing up a will is a tradition before a battle, and all his subordinates have already written their documents. At that moment, the hero was confused, not knowing what he should write. One of the soldiers expressed the opinion that these wills are pure nonsense, and it all looks outdated. This surprised the guy so much because he did not expect to hear such a thing from one of his comrades. Everyone began to crumple their papers with wills and throw them aside. They then turned to the commander with a request to organize a delicious meal upon their return and throw a party in honor of the upcoming triumph. While the guy realized the seriousness of the upcoming operation, his comrades continued to joke. The signal beacon began to flash in the helicopter. This meant that they had reached a certain position, and it was time for everyone to take up their weapons and begin landing. The brave soldiers readied their machine guns and were ready to carry out the dangerous and difficult task. They had now finally reached their goal, and the pilots were informed about it. The determined captain ordered the soldiers from Alpha Squad to prepare for battle, and the first of the soldiers began his landing. They descended from a helicopter on a hill, smoothly descending along a rope. The captain turned to Luo Zhengu, asking if he is nervous, considering this is his first mission. The hero just waved his hand, signaling that everything was in order, and then began his descent. Holding the machine gun in his hands, he bravely descended to the ground, ready to begin the task. After a successful landing, all the soldiers were ready for battle and began to move through the wooded area. The helicopter began to gradually move away, and the captain ordered to move deeper into the jungle. After examining the surrounding area, the detachment concluded that there is no threat around, and at the moment the situation is safe. Having contacted the headquarters, the captain clarified when to expect a meeting with the opponents, and he was told that he needed to be ready at any moment, maintain good physical shape, and return as early as possible. The captain announced the muster, demanded a map, and indicated the need to check the equipment through headphones. They were currently 30 kilometers from the target point and had until 12 o'clock to reach it, so they needed to synchronize their clocks. The brave warriors glanced at their watches to make sure that the time was correct and everything was in order. Then they set off on a journey of 30 kilometers. They moved slowly through the jungle, carefully scanning the terrain for the enemy. Watching the newcomer, the commander thought that perhaps he had underestimated this guy, and he was truly worthy of being part of an elite special forces unit. Events unfolded 2 hours later. The captain ordered everyone to stop and take a short break. One of the soldiers asked him what he thought about this. Before them stretched the road leading to the western border. To the east, 25 kilometers, there was a mountain settlement from where the prohibited substances came. The captain assigned the two soldiers to prepare traps and defend the south together. He ordered the rest to camouflage themselves 5 kilometers west of the road and set up an ambush on a hill near the path in order to meet the enemy in full force. After explaining the plan to the soldiers, the captain asked Luo Zhenga where he plans to take his sniper position. The hero had doubts, and he thought that they were preparing to surround 100 people when there were only 5 of them. The guy could not understand what the captain wanted to tell him. The experienced soldier pointed to a position on the mountain where he could see the entire road with no blind spots, and the highest point was the best for the sniper. The newcomer was asked to be careful and take the point that the captain himself told him about. The guy looked worried. He was tormented by doubts. Once in position, they began testing communications, using microphones and headphones to interact. At that time, Luo Zheng felt that something was wrong here. Remembering Yarin Lanxiong's words that the secret mission is imperfect and the enemies know the best positions, Luo Zheng realized the need to change his position. Deciding to make a sharp turn, he moved to another position, leaving his sniper equipment in another place. When he found himself near several soldiers, he realized that his premonitions might be correct. Realizing the danger, Luo Zheng told his allies about his doubts. One of the soldiers thought for a moment, but the captain suggested that perhaps Luo Zheng is just nervous, but everyone needs to remain vigilant. It was a strange feeling that Luo Zheng couldn't explain, but he hoped he was wrong. When the allies began to deny his premonitions, Luo Zheng decided to tell them about his concerns. The captain believed that Luo Zheng is just too excited, but everyone needs to stay alert. But Luo Zhenga had a lingering feeling that something was wrong here. Suddenly, Jin Dao's ally warned that enemies were approaching, and Luo Zheng took aim with his sniper rifle. Looking through the scope, he distinguished blurry silhouettes of people and gradually zoomed in on the image. Watching the people walking along with the horses, he felt that something was wrong, and his sensations only intensified. Without hesitation, he immediately decided to tell the captain about a possible problem. If these people were traffickers in illegal substances, then they probably did not move without protection. Their mission was to stop the supply of illegal substances, so they had to act even if the enemy tried to use a ruse. Having made his decision, the captain contacted the informant and ordered the others to retreat if things didn't go according to plan and head to the rendezvous point. To his surprise, he discovered that the connection with the messenger had disappeared, and his attempts to get an answer remained unsuccessful. As the soldiers watched the men enter the jungle, they realized that the situation could become extremely dangerous. Luo Zheng, using an optical sight, closely watched each of them, and their actions became increasingly suspicious. One of them started shooting with a sniper rifle and hit Luo's sniper equipment Jenga, which he deliberately left as a trap. Upon discovering the shot, Luo Zheng immediately informed the commander of the presence of a sniper ready to attack. He quickly reported that the enemy position was unknown and ordered all soldiers to take cover. If he had not changed his position, he would already be dead. Somewhat nervous about his first mission, the boy still decided to hunt down the enemy wherever he was hiding because his comrades remained in danger until he neutralized the threat. Then it became clear to him that he would have to take a risk. With a trick, he identified the enemy position and was ready to make accurate shots. Using his agility, he knew that he would now target the enemy sniper and gain the advantage. Multiple shots were fired in response to the anti-sniper trap, and the captain ordered everyone to retreat. Many soldiers dressed in civilian clothes opened fire on the Allies, while the hero realized that this was really a cunning trap. They baited them in a small group to bring them into the light, and enemy snipers quickly destroyed the exposed targets. They eventually surrounded them, attacking from all sides at once. Fortunately, the sniper's first shot was successful, and although it is unknown whether he died or survived, he was seriously wounded. Taking aim again, he knew that the sniper now knew his position, just as he knew his, and he had to shoot at random, but he only had one chance. Taking aim in the general direction of the enemy sniper, he decided to take a shot at random. Unfortunately, the distance was too great to determine exactly where to shoot, and there was no time, so he had to retreat. The brave warrior made his way through the dense jungle, quickening his pace to avoid being hit. Hiding behind a tree, the guy wondered why he wasn't shot and tried to figure out whether he had killed the sniper, but then realized that there was definitely more than one sniper in such a large group. Looking back, he saw something terrible. Behind him, there was a huge number of soldiers who almost did not notice him. Fearing their approach, the guy knew that he would have to act. Enemy soldiers were rapidly approaching the hero, but he decided to resist. Coming out from behind the tree, he began to open aimed fire with his pistol against the enemies. Several enemies were easily defeated, and he continued to shoot at the approaching villains. Fortunately, all approaching enemies were successfully destroyed. Then the hero decided to find out how things were going with the commander, but there was no communication with him. Unfortunately, he realized that his allies had been caught. Immediately over the microphone, he was asked to surrender or comply. But Luo Zheng resolutely rejected this idea and decided to resist to the end. There were an incredible number of enemies, and the hero continued to fight against them. Feeling the approach of footsteps, he realized that the enemies were getting closer. As it turned out, these were dogs following the hero, and they rushed towards him to attack. He immediately began shooting at them so that they would not give away his position and continued to pursue the enemy. There were about 100 dealers of illegal substances in this group, and the same number of enemies were pursuing him. He knew that there were people in them who were ready to persecute his comrades, and there were incredibly many of them. Among them, someone was already shouting that the enemy was in the west and needed to be caught. The guy understood that he had to destroy his opponents, otherwise he would not be able to escape. Using available means, he began to prepare for an enemy attack and planted a homemade mine. Hiding in cover, he began to await the enemy's advance, preparing to destroy those who approached. Another dog followed the trail, and several people followed it, heading towards the hero with the intention of killing him. The opponents fell on a homemade mine that the hero had installed and easily neutralized dozens of enemies who were in his path. In the end, he got rid of the opponents who were nearby. Looking at his watch, he realized that the rally point was in a different direction, and he had to move towards it. With horror, he realized that he did not know whether his brothers were safe. Anticipating the inevitable battle, he had to regain his strength using his ancestral technique. Before he could use the technique, several more shots rang out, very close. Realizing that it would be impossible to avoid the battle, the hero continued to fight, aiming at his enemies with his sniper rifle. Fortunately, he heard a familiar voice and realized that they were his brethren, and he felt relieved, realizing that he was not alone in this situation, and with the support of his comrades, he could count on a joint effort to escape the trap or effectively confront the enemies, and this gave him new confidence and hope to successfully overcome difficult circumstances. Taking aim, he discovered that they were allied machine gunners attacking the enemy. The captain was also with them, and they fought bravely, repelling the attacks of their impudent enemies. Many enemy soldiers fell in this battle, and they were afraid to attack further and stood in their positions. The enemies noticed the sniper, and they did not want to engage in battle anymore, but the commanders ordered an attack because there were only 5 enemies. One of the enemy commanders was easily killed with a precise shot straight to the head. The commander was proud of his speed of shots and accuracy, and it turned out that it was Luo Zheng, and it was he who saved them. All enemy soldiers within a radius of several hundred meters were destroyed. Continuing aimed fire, the hero ordered the captain and his crew to retreat, and he was going to cover them. Coming closer, the captain asked how he was. So far, everything was in order, but the hero was not sure whether he could hold his position any longer, and retreat was inevitable. The captain ordered a retreat without wasting time while the sniper covered them. The experienced military man realized that an information leak had occurred, and this needed to be reported to the commander. Due to one of the soldiers' headphones getting into contact with the enemy, everyone had to turn off communications so as not to get on the radar of enemy bases, and soon they had to meet. The angry commander ordered everyone to stay alive, because they needed to return to headquarters. With lightning speed, all the soldiers began to break their headsets with microphones so that the enemy could not hear them. While the hero realized that he was now alone, with the help of his sniper rifle, he repelled the attacks of many opponents and fought bravely in an unequal battle. The enemies were advancing, but he continued to fight and defend himself using a pistol. Suddenly, he noticed that one of the opponents had a lot of grenades. It was at this moment that it occurred to him that after so many battles, it was time to come up with a clever surprise. Moving forward, the enemies searched the bodies of their comrades in order to use their weapons. However, the grenade, disguised as a trap, went unnoticed and exploded, taking with it many enemy lives. The explosive trap worked even better than expected, because this squad was completely unprepared for such a development of events. There was also no time left for thinking. Now it was important to catch up with the rest of the allies. The hero headed to the point of retreat, realizing that he needed to take big steps, move straight, not avoiding small bumps, and overcome obstacles not obliquely, but in a straight line, over hills and not around. Arriving at the indicated coordinates, he realized that the retreat point must be somewhere nearby. Approaching the place, the guy breathed a sigh of relief, not even imagining that he could arrive 15 minutes earlier than the others. This was the final destination, and he realized how long and difficult a path he had walked to avoid persecution. And remembering the poem that Yarin Lanxiong composed, he felt his soul filled with warmth and memories. The same girl whose radiance and unique energy remained in his memories as bright colors on the canvas of life, filling it with unique moments and faith in miracles. Suddenly, some noise is heard, and the guy thinks that perhaps it is one of his comrades. With a feeling of anxiety, he realizes that there may be enemies in this place, and in such moments, it is important to be vigilant because every sound or movement can indicate a potential threat, and his experience and training help him remain alert and ready for action. With horror in his voice, he reports that enemies are nearby and realizes that he is in an ambush, and he instantly switches to defense and begins to look for opportunities to get out of a difficult situation. Hiding, the hero does not understand how the enemies found out about the rally point and is worried about the commander and brothers. Suddenly, the guy hears someone calling him quietly. This is one of the allies, sitting on a tree and making sounds similar to birdsong. At that moment, Luo Zheng learned that this was one of his allies. The ally reported that the rally point had turned into a trap, and he wanted to know if the guy had seen the rest of the soldiers and the captain. The hero said that they should have arrived here before him, and was surprised that the soldier did not notice them. After searching the surrounding area, it turned out that the rally point was completely surrounded, and approaching it meant risking lives, and the enemies were still in the area, making retreat difficult. Perhaps the captain understood the situation and disappeared, waiting for them. but it remains a mystery how to find the rest of the allies. After thinking, Luo Zheng suggested provoking the enemy. This proposal surprised the experienced soldier. The guy was going to open fire to attract the attention of the enemies and create a distraction, and in the meantime he could hide, waiting for the captain and the others to arrive. And after that, the hero was going to meet with everyone as soon as he got rid of his pursuers. The elite group soldier couldn't afford to let anyone else risk his life in this matter, and if anyone had to distract the enemy, it had to be him. Luo was against this idea because in this forest it is difficult to predict where the enemy might hide, even if he is behind him. In addition, the main character was aware of the methods of communication with the captain and other members of the squad, and yet he believed that the soldier would cope with this task. After a few seconds, Zheng made the decision to act and be the one to take the risky step. Heading into the forest, he ran towards the enemies, shooting with a sniper rifle and provoking them. Watching the fleeing soldier, the experienced fighter realized that this guy was really very strong. The enemies immediately responded to the provocation, shouting that the intruder was in the southwestern direction. They began to pursue the fleeing soldiers. Suddenly, the soldier noticed the signal being given to him. He also decided to wave a branch from a tree to attract attention. It turned out that these were his allies, transmitting a signal using a secret code. Sometime later, the entire group of soldiers gathered together. The captain expressed his curiosity to the soldier, although the unexpected shots and the question of why the newcomer was left alone left him bewildered. Bai Luo Zheng made his way through the dense jungle. He thought that even the ancestral breathing technique would not help him because fatigue threatened to consume him if he did not stop running. Deciding to take a little rest, he took aim at the enemies, picking up his sniper rifle. Upon closer inspection, he was able to discover a surprising aspect. Using an optical sight, the guy recognized that there was an army of wild wolves in front of him. Thus, he decided to fire his sniper rifle. Instantly struck by his shot, the guy killed one of the enemy soldiers who was holding a conversation with someone. Unfortunately, at the same time, he did not reveal his location, and the enemy's reaction was too fast. A storm of shots broke out, but fortunately, the hero managed to take cover behind a large stone. He couldn't understand how the enemy had so much ammunition or why they recognized his location. Now they were trying to break through the river using brute force, and he should leave. Under intense fire, he rushed forward, trying to evade the advancing enemies who were inexorably approaching him. Turning as he watched as a huge number of opponents approached, becoming closer every second. Periodically, he turned around to deliver accurate shots, pushing back those who got too close. As he surveyed the situation, he realized that it would soon begin to rain heavily, and he wondered whether his pursuers would be able to follow him in such weather. Events developed 2 hours later, not far from the collection point. With anxiety, the guy carefully watched his surroundings, fearing that enemies might be very close. Fortunately, he was convinced that his pursuers had lost sight of him, but it was unclear to him how to return to his brothers. Suddenly, he noticed one of the soldiers rushing somewhere. Realizing that the fleeing soldier had outstanding skills, he pointed a pistol at him and ordered him to stop. The allied soldier shouted that he was one of his own and asked, "Luo Zhenga, don't shoot him." The guy said that everyone was worried about him and offered to go with him to the allies. Walking back to the rally point, the guy wondered if everything was all right with his brother's allies, and it turned out that everything was all right, only he was missing. At this time, they discussed what to do next, and he could express his thoughts since he had already returned. The captain was sincerely glad that Luo Zheng returned because everyone was very worried about him. The man exclaimed that the hero had experienced situations that they had not encountered, and the brothers wanted to hear his opinion on this matter. An experienced fighter asked the rookie what he thought: investigate or call for reinforcements to help in the retreat. All the soldiers hesitated, listening carefully to the newcomer who was considering his answer. Without hesitation, the hero stated that he understood their feelings, but these people did not wish them well, and there were experienced soldiers on the enemy's side, but they had very little information. So Luo Zheng strongly suggested retreating in this situation. Experienced fighters were amazed by what they heard, and they could not imagine how this was possible in this situation. At the same time, the character realized that it was impossible to inform them about the invasion of wild wolves, since they simply would not believe it. One of the soldiers suggested that the captain first contact the regiment and ask that Zheng Zi left first, and this was his first fight, and moreover, the situation was non-standard. After some thought, the captain realized that such a decision could be quite reasonable. The newcomer assumed that if he did this, someone in the army would definitely break a couple of his ribs. Let everything happen honestly, and now he wanted to know what the captain's plans were for the future. The determined man explained that they could not contact the regiment now, and if they found out that something had happened to them, they would immediately send reinforcements. And now it was important to find out more about these people and their plans. If his memory was correct, the map showed a mountain village nearby. It was Shen Miao, gathering village of illicit substance dealers, people from mountainous areas, usually poor and sparsely populated. This way they could go into the village and gather more information. Using disguises, they could also pose as dealers in illegal substances. The man instantly assumed that hundreds of people were hunting against them, and it is unlikely that anyone had not heard of such a large operation. Then the captain suggested first making a stop for today and starting his mission tomorrow morning. Meanwhile, Luo Zheng thought that his allies were not aware of the existence of the wild wolf squad, and he should be extremely careful. The next day came. A brave team of soldiers disguised themselves and entered the village, in particular into one of the cafes. They passed through a large number of soldiers guarding the area around them. When one of the soldiers inspected their clothing, he learned that the village only provided shelter and was not directly involved in transactions, and strangers should not carry weapons, sell illegal substances, or in any way harass the locals. It was truly amazing that the drug dealers followed the rules as long as they didn't cause problems, and the locals didn't object to them until they became a nuisance. The captain suddenly heard footsteps, but luckily it was just a waitress asking what the men would like to order. The experienced soldiers didn't even know what to answer and simply looked indignantly at the lady approaching them. The captain, like a bandit, said that he brought his comrades for a deal and asked him to bring them the best dishes they have. Money is not a problem. The slightly alarmed waitress asked them to wait and quietly left. At the same time, one of the soldiers exclaimed that they had no money, but according to the rules, they needed to pay something. After some time, a lot of varied and tasty dishes appeared on their table. Looking at all these dishes, the captain ordered his soldiers to swoop in, confident that the military forces would understand their situation. The warriors quickly and without regret began to eat, because you cannot change the world with an empty stomach. Next to them, people were also having a meal and discussing the situation. Some soldiers decided to intercept illegal goods and even carried out a massacre, and it turned out that the head of the gang had arrived in the village, offering a reward for the heads of these soldiers. The soldiers were surprised to hear that the offer of money for the capture of people did not quite correspond to the approach of criminal groups. Perhaps this was the only way to let people earn money and attract them to your side. It was obvious, and the pair of opponents they faced had a lot of experience on the battlefield, and Luo Zheng suggested that they were definitely not local residents, but most likely mercenaries under the leadership of the leader of a criminal gang. If they remain in the village, the soldiers cannot stay there for long, and it is time to split up and follow the plan. The soldiers went to the kitchen to ask the cook what he had added to the dishes, and it turned out that there was so much salt that they couldn't even taste it. The worried guys suddenly asked the waitress where the toilet was. They then went to separate toilets to escape the area. The captain told the demolition soldier that it was time to act in a few seconds. An explosion occurred, destroying most of the building where the soldiers were refreshing themselves. Because of the fire, all the locals began to run away, including the soldiers themselves. The villagers thought it was a terrorist attack, and a fire started in the cafe. One of the soldiers ran towards them to find out what was happening. He grabbed one of the residents and began interrogating him. Having grabbed the main character, the soldier felt horror and did not understand who it was. The concerned soldier pointed his finger at him, saying that there was something wrong with this guy and he needed to be detained. At that time, the captain had already neutralized the soldier and took his weapon away. He stated that these soldiers were not hospitable and it was better to leave quickly. Heading into the forest, the soldiers put on their equipment again and prepared to repel the enemy attack. The enemy troops were powerful, even though they had just eaten, but there was no point in getting so angry about it. The main character turned around and saw another soldier approaching. The guy shouted that traffickers in illegal substances had also decided to hunt them. Enemy soldiers were gaining on them from the west, and now the route to the east and north was blocked by drug dealers, and they were almost surrounded. The captain had assigned the demo man to cover the entire perimeter of Manami to undermine the enemy, and he wanted to see if those opponents would decide to pursue them further. The sniper was instructed to return 100 meters and ambush the enemy. The demo man enthusiastically began placing mines, creating beautiful but dangerous patterns in the most unexpected places, and he prepared cunning traps that could explode at any moment. Then they had to move south, carefully assessing each step and synchronizing their actions, with the goal of returning to 100 meters and organizing the detachment in turn. And this provided reliable protection and allowed each member of the group to act carefully at a critical moment. Readily, the squad moved towards the positions previously determined by the captain, strictly following his instructions and maintaining vigilance throughout the journey to the designated point, and they were ready to act in accordance with the plan developed by the team leader. This unit is part of the Hua Army Special Forces Shia, and if the enemies decide to fight them, they will have to think twice. And this unit is famous for its professionalism, strategic thinking, and unwavering dedication to its mission. And before calling these experienced and brave warriors into battle, the enemies should seriously weigh their chances.